Hey guys, tonight we're not sailing with pirates, no soggy boots, no suspicious parrots, no grumpy sailors arguing with seagulls about territorial rights. Instead, we're heading somewhere much colder, much smokier, and honestly, a lot less glamorous. Straight into the Iron Age, north, a world where winter wasn't a season, but a personality. And that personality was, I hope you like frostbite. Tonight, we're drifting into the lives of Scandinavians who spent half the year wrapped in darkness, living in longhouses full of warmth, family, and smoke thick enough to season your lungs like a cast iron pan. But before we step into the freezing wind and blinking torchlight of the past, go ahead and like the video and subscribe, but only if this kind of quiet, cozy, slightly smoky bedtime storytelling actually helps you relax. If not, no worries. Even Iron Age Scandinavians didn't get along with everyone, especially not neighbors who borrowed your firewood without asking. Leave a comment telling me where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. It's always 2 a.m. somewhere, and if you're here, you're probably trying to fall asleep to the reassuring thought that at least you don't have to survive a winter where the sun barely shows up and your house doesn't even have a chimney. Now dim those lights. Switch on a fan for that soft white noise breeze. Get comfortable, and maybe tuck your feet under a blanket, not because of rats this time, but because an imaginary Norse house spirit might decide your toes look like snacks. Unlikely, but history has taught us to never underestimate ancient folklore. Let's pause for a moment. Have you ever wondered what life actually felt like in a world where dawn barely existed, where days were blue-gray smudges, nights lasted forever, and surviving until spring required a level of toughness that would make even modern gym bros rethink their confidence? What did it feel like to wake up in a longhouse, full of smoke, to breathe air that tasted like burnt pine and desperation, to step outside into a cold so sharp it felt like the wind had personal opinions about your life choices? What did it feel like to gather around a fire with your family, your animals, your tools, and your sanity all stored in the same smoky room? To rely on wool, wood, bone, and pure stubbornness in a world where the weather was basically a hostile god? Tonight, we're going to drift gently into that world, not to romanticize it, not to fear it, but to feel it softly the way embers glow in a dim longhouse, the way snow presses against the walls, the way survival becomes a rhythm as steady as breath. So take a slow breath in, let the noise of your day fall away, and imagine a world of frost, fur, firelight, and quiet determination, a world where people didn't just survive winter, they learned to live inside it. Settle in, close your eyes if you haven't already, and let the story begin. Chapter 1. The morning that never really dawned, and now, as your breathing slows and the noise of your day fades into something distant and harmless, let's drift into a world where morning doesn't begin with sunlight, but with smoke. Picture this. You wake inside a longhouse, not a cottage, not a cozy cabin with windows and birds politely tweeting at you. A long, low, timber-walled shelter buried beneath an endless Scandinavian winter where dawn doesn't arrive, it only lightens the darkness slightly. It's pitch black, not lights off, dark. Not, I closed my eyes dark. This is the kind of darkness that feels solid, like it has weight, as if the night itself has settled on your chest like a sleepy cat refusing to move. The air is thick, so thick you can almost feel it brushing against your skin. Smoke has filled the longhouse through the night, creeping into your hair, your blankets, your lungs, curling and coiling beneath the rafters, because there is no chimney, only a hole in the roof that the smoke sometimes decides to use. Your eyes sting. Your throat prickles. Your first breath of the day tastes like you tried to inhale a campfire. Around you, you hear coughing the soft chorus of a family waking not because they are rested, but because their lungs have politely requested fresh air before staging a protest. Someone shifts beside the hearth. Someone else grumbles beneath a fur pelt that smells like a very opinionated sheep. A baby whimpers. A dog gives a half-hearted thump of its tail, then immediately reconsiders the effort. Outside, winter presses against the walls, not metaphorically, but literally. Snow heaps high against the sides of the longhouse, like the landscape itself is trying to smother the living. Inside, the warmth is precious, but it comes at a cost. The fire, banked low through the night, has kept frostbite from claiming fingers and toes, but it has also turned the air into a smoky stew of survival. Someone stirs the embers. A faint orange glow flickers to life, not enough to see, but enough to suggest that light still exists somewhere in the universe. Slowly, very slowly, shapes emerge. Wooden beams, blackened by years of soot. Sleeping platforms lined with straw and rough wool. Drying herbs dangling overhead like ghostly foliage. And the faint outline of the roof so dark and smoky it feels like the sky has been pulled indoors. You sit up, wrapped in layers of wool and animal skin, the kind of clothing that weighs about as much as your sense of responsibility. Your hair smells like burnt pine. Your breath clouds in front of your face, even though you're technically indoors. This is morning in the Iron Age. No sunrise, no coffee, no gentle playlist of acoustic guitar. Just smoke, cold, creaking timbers, and the quiet realization that your ancestors were far tougher than you will ever need to be. And yet, there is comfort here. The warmth of bodies huddled together, the soft crackle of rekindled flame, the familiar smell of wool, wood, and yesterday's stew. The knowledge that outside, winter rages, but inside, you are alive, you are together, you are enduring. In the dim glow, someone mutters a joke, a child giggles. A pot begins to warm over the flame. Life continues. Because survival, here, is not dramatic. It is ordinary, daily, persistent. So, as you drift deeper into this smoky, ancient darkness, feel the resilience in the air, the quiet strength of people who woke every day to a world, trying its best to freeze them solid and carried on anyway. Breathe in slowly. Let the longhouse settle around you. Let the smoke thin, the warmth grow, and the day begin not with sunlight but with endurance. Chapter 2, The Longhouse, a chill-proof retreat. Hey guys, welcome back to yet another episode where we dive into something cozier than a wool sock-clad foot massage, life inside an Iron Age Scandinavian longhouse. Tonight, imagine huddling with your neighbors, each of you armed with tales of frostbite, confronted by the very real, bone-chilling cold just outside. Yes, tonight's story brings you shrink-wrapping your attire in layers of wool while the dark pulls you into its icy embrace. Before we take a frosty plunge into the Iron Age, a reminder, if you find this escapade mildly amusing, and I hope you do, consider giving us a thumbs up, subscribing, or leaving a comment as long as you genuinely enjoyed this ride into the past. Feel free to spread the joy like, you know, a rather tacky blanket at a family reunion. Now, let's get real. Ever found yourself in an awkward snuggle session with a couch full of relatives during Thanksgiving? How about trying to have an honest conversation about personal space while keeping a pet cat from stealing the roast? Well, buckle up, because you're about to experience a family reunion on an entirely different level, one with no escape routes, no cozy corners, and an intimate smell that can only be described as aromatic survival, a mix of wood smoke, wet sheep, and last week's stew. Congratulations, you've just awoken in 200 AD. It's not a 5-star hotel. In fact, you walk into a longhouse so cozy it makes you question your life choices. The moment you enter, you're greeted not just by the ambient glow of the fire in the hearth, but by the cacophony of family life and, of course, the unfortunate side effects of cramped living arrangements. Senses fully engaged, you feel how the walls of woven wood and mud close in, embracing you like a smothering hug from a particularly needy aunt who refuses to let go. Surrounding you are fellow villagers, 40 of them. To be exact, each an army of survival, clinging to life, warmth, and the stubbornly half-eaten pot of stew simmering in the corner that no one wants to claim responsibility for. Let's talk about that stew. Oh, that glorious concoction. What's in it, you ask? Most villagers would advise a liberal pinch of whatever you can find, resulting in a delightful mix of root vegetables that resemble what's left in the bottom of last year's potato bin, and meat that probably had its last good day several weeks ago. You're not sure if that twisted carrot in the pot is a vegetable or just the last remnant of a particularly ambitious beetle. Your heart agrees to like it, because, well, it's boiling in the fire, and starvation is a more imminent threat than a slightly questionable stew. Just beyond the culinary disappointment may stand the centerpiece of this shelter, the hearth. Now, you may picture a simple fire pit, but nay, this is a multi-purpose area doubling as the family gathering spot, cooking station, warmth distributor, and occasionally, the medieval equivalent of a Netflix binge-watch hub. To your left, there's Ragnar, the village matriarch, arm-deep in a hybrid of grilling and gossip, as she pokes the fire, chattering about her neighbor's livestock. I swear, if that goat of Freya's doesn't stop stealing my herbs, I'm sending it to the next village. Who knew sheep could breed such spirited drama? You chuckle quietly, licking your lips in preparation for the stew of destiny, half hoping it might magically transform into something gourmet by the time it reaches your plate. There's also the delicate balance of sound, the crackle of wood, the occasional thunderous laugh, and let's not forget Harry, the village jester, doing his best to keep morale high, even if that sometimes means reenacting a particularly hilarious goat chase from last winter. Nothing like a frozen goat making an appearance in your longhouse to lighten the mood, am I right? Now, as the air fills with warmth and the heavenly aroma of smoke-drenched stew, your comfy surroundings starkly contrast with the uninviting cold just beyond the threshold. Outside, the winter wraps its icy clutches tighter, sneaking through every flimsy crack in the poultry walls. You think your windows are drafty? Try living in a house where wind is the primary resident and uninvited guests include snowflakes. Every gust is accompanied by a firm reminder of the ever-present risk of frostbite or, at the very least, a rather nasty cold that transforms your nose into a rather grotesque shade of blue. Inside, people huddle together, wrapped in their rough spun wool, reminding you that the true secret to warmth isn't just layered clothing. It's loving thy neighbor, even if that means sharing the last spot near the hearth. And let's not forget the thrill of indoor teamwork. You marvel at the art of resourcefulness as children dash about with buckets, collecting coal and logs that, if you're lucky, won't double as makeshift catapult ammo later. It's like a bizarre game of dodgeball, but significantly less organized and with more potential for injury. So, as you settle into the depth of this camaraderie-laden longhouse and the evening drags on, the genuine warmth of humor, survival, and questionable recipes fills the air. You soon realize that surviving the chill isn't just about stuffing extra hay under your tunic. It's about catching up with neighbors, sharing the joys and pains of life together, and hoping nobody delivers a knock-knock joke about frostbite that inevitably leads to the uncomfortable realization that someone actually knows too much about frozen toes. In this snowy paradise, remember, the longhouse may feel small, but in spirit, it's as wide as your imagination can carry. With laughter as your blanket and stories steeped in resilience, sleep well, dear listeners. May your dreams be wrapped in warm furs, more delightful stew adventures, and, of course, inventive plots involving goats and not-so-great cooking experiments. Asterisk, asterisk, Chapter 3. Bejon's Rough Awakening asterisk. Asterisk. Hey guys, welcome back to our cozy time travel journey through history. Tonight, prepare yourself for a frosty escapade that's more chill than your high school science teacher on a caffeine deficit. We're diving into the world of Iron Age Scandinavians, where snowflakes were plentiful and soft beds were as elusive as a unicorn on roller skates. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment below only if you actually enjoy what you hear, of course. No pressure. Now, dim those lights, set your fan to a comfy breeze, and get yourselves snuggled in. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to wake up freezing your toes off on a bed of straw, while your biggest worry is not being devoured by wolves? Are the sheep warm enough to share your blanket? What do you wear when your cloak smells like it just ran a marathon through a goat farm? Let's face it, would you trade your electric blanket for a sack of hay? Spoiler alert, you probably wouldn't. Congratulations, you've just woken up in 200 AD. Or, as I like to call it, the year everything was slightly less comfortable and incredibly more woolly. Picture this. You lurch awake on a rough pile of straw, and there's your new best friend, 14-year-old Bjorn, shifting uncomfortably beside you, not on a memory foam mattress, mind you, but rather on what feels like an angry cactus dressed as bedding. The coarse fibers of his straw mattress are doing their very best to serve as both pillow and gentle torture device. It's not your average evening of sleep, it's more like a medieval thumb wrestling competition with an especially prickly opponent. Bjorn grunts, adjusting his coarse wool tunic, fully aware each movement sends a bundle of straw cascading around him, Like a foreign snowstorm, an unusual sequel to an Instagram filter you didn't ask for. Now, it's winter in Scandinavia, and the air is as crisp as your 10-year-old car's brakes when driving over the fjord's icy slopes. As you listen to the sounds of the outside world, there's the faint echo of your neighbor's goat bleating mournfully. You can't help but wonder if the goat has any idea how lucky it is to sleep on a bed of hay instead of this irritating, scratchy tumbleweed impersonation of a mattress. But let's be real. Winter during this time was about as inviting as a dentist's waiting room. Bjorn's home isn't the cozy Scandinavian escape you'd expect from Pinterest. No, it's a single-room structure, not so much a house, as it is a multifaceted draft factory. The walls are made from the tallest tales crafted from wattle and daub, which is a fancy term for we shove some sticks in mud, and voila, welcome to your frigid abode. Unfortunately, these walls, bless their wooden hearts, seem to be in a perpetual battle with the winter storm outside. Right now, that same wind is sneaking into Bjorn's living nightmare, teasing the edges of his hastily patched cloak and whispering sweet nothings about frostbite. Every breath he takes is flavored with that delightful mix of cold air and unidentifiable animal scents, a scent that can only be described as medieval surprise. And if you're thinking that escaping this winter horror requires a quick dash to the warmth of the fire, think again. The hearth isn't just a cozy gathering spot. It's the epicenter of a smoke cloud that would make any camping trip look like a vacation in the Maldives. The smells of burning wood drift cheerily about, mingling with the delightful scent of, well, fill in the blank. That could either be cooking porridge, or whatever else Bjorn's mom is trying to turn into dinner. How's your dinner tonight, Bjorn? You may ask, only to have Bjorn shrug and glare at that bowl of unidentifiable mush. You can almost hear him thinking, ever tried to make soup with frozen bones? It's like cooking with your eyes closed while wearing mittens. And yet, dinner is dinner, and a surprisingly entertaining affair if you overlook how hard it is to chew with frozen teeth. But wait, there's more. Since we're basking in the creativity of survival, let's take a moment to address the unsung hero of winter resilience, Bjorn's trusty wool tunic. It's the only thing standing between his skin and the Arctic nightmare outside. Wool, as it turns out, is a fantastic insulator unless it becomes damp. Then it rapidly morphs into a soggy sponge, making you feel as if the world's largest, furriest water balloon has chosen you as its vessel. And if you think Bjorn's cold discomfort is a unique experience, think again. Around him, entire families cluster like an awkwardly assembled jigsaw puzzle of mismatching sweaters, each wrapped in layers upon layers of rustic wool and knit attempts to make anyone look more rugged than they actually are. It's both laughable and downright heartwarming to see them huddled together, creating a very inventive form of human insulation. Ah, family bonding through mutual frostbite. You might muse, if only they could win a collective prize for the innovative use of wool, who wouldn't want that on their trophy shelf? But alas, no trophies exist in Bjorn's world, just the daily struggle of staying warm while hoping to not wake up with icicles hanging from your eyebrows. As Bjorn glances out the tiny, crudely made window through which you now observe a swirling blizzard, you realize this is only the beginning. The adventure unfolding here, in the Arctic grip of the Roman Iron Age, is one of persistence, absurdity, and an all-around will to survive. And you just can't make this stuff up, especially when sterner sounds of a witch pot being boiled start bubbling in the background, reminding Bjorn he better do his chore of gathering more firewood, or risk an oven-like evening at home. Well, dear listener, sleep may come after all, lulled by the cozy chaos of Bjorn's life. Hang tight, there's much more ahead. Chapter 4, A Chill in the Air, Hey guys, welcome back to our cozy time travel journey through history. Tonight, we're diving headfirst into a winter wonderland that's colder than your last Tinder date. Welcome to the bone-chilling realities of Iron Age Scandinavia. Just imagine waking up next to a sheep who has far better insulation than you do. There's young Bjorn, your new friend, snuggled next to his 2-year-old sister, dead asleep and emitting adorable little puffs of breath. Meanwhile, outside the walls made from mud and sticks, that's wattle and daub to you, frost clings to every surface, like an overzealous mother trying to hug you on your way out the door. As you settle in, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment below only if you actually enjoy what you hear. No pressure, right? Now, dim those lights, snuggle up under those blankets, and get comfortable. Picture yourself in a time when the only electric blanket was the fur of a startled goat, and your biggest worry was a sudden snowstorm, adding a few feet of snow to your already unpleasant morning. Have you ever wondered what winter mornings were like before central heating? What if waking up meant battling icy winds instead of an alarm clock? Seriously, skiing to the bathroom wasn't just a cute metaphor back then, it was the daily reality. Now imagine digging through a pile of scratchy straw and wrestling with woolen layers that smell like they've been marinating in yesterday's stew. Is that smell dinner or a long-lost sock? Who's to say? Congratulations, you've just woken up in 200 AD, or as I like to call it, the year when Cozy and Winter were in a long-term feud. The tiny hovel you find yourself in is about as well insulated as a yurt made of Swiss cheese. You shift slightly, and your body is immediately reminded of last night's pig wrestling competition, at least that's how you like to explain the bruises. Now, let's set the scene. Inside Bjorn's home, the air is filled with the comforting scent of, well, let's be honest, it smells like a curious mixture of wood smoke, damp straw, and who knows what from last week's dinner. The flickering light from the fireplace reveals a layer of soot that clings to the walls like a stubborn houseguest who refuses to leave after a party. With every shiver that runs down your spine, you wonder how Bjorn and his sister can sleep peacefully, puffing little clouds into the frozen air like tiny, wool-clad dragons. And to top it off, his woolen tunic could probably stand up and walk away on its own. It smells that richly of, let's call it mystery aroma. Usually, a winter morning calls for hearty porridge, which Bjorn's mom happily stirs over the fire, but luck may not be on Bjorn's side today. Ever tried porridge made from the last of last year's grain? It's like trying to consume a very determined brick. But to be fair, breakfast at Bjorn's place is nothing short of comedic curiosity. Every morsel is an adventure, a riddle wrapped in mystery seasoned with yikes, did I just chew on something crunchy? It's like starting your day with more uncertainty than an unscripted reality show. How do you make porridge with frozen grain? Answer: very carefully. Now to the cold. Oh, the cold. It doesn't just perch outside, eagerly waiting for you to leave the warmth of your blanket. No, it sneaks in like an ex during the holidays, slipping through the tiniest crack and wrapping you in its icy embrace. You can practically hear it laughing every time you take a breath. Bjorn, with all the wisdom of a 4-year-old trying to look cool, mutters, just breathe, it's like inhaling a popsicle. Note to self, never take advice from a kid in a wool tunic. As you glance around, you'll notice that Bjorn's family members are huddled together, barely clinging to comfort, each one a bundle of mismatched woolen layers. It's a sight worthy of the best family portraits from the 1800s, if they could go back in time, that is, and take this photo shoot in a properly heated studio. Their woolly numbers provide a semblance of warmth. After all, layers, much like bad decisions, can at least help you feel a bit better, even when you end up with a feeling akin to being trapped in a sheep's embrace. The little sister stirs as you wonder how she manages to stay warm. She must be channeling some ancient Scandinavian warmth magic, or simply the warmth of company, albeit a bit smelly and chaotic. And then, the unexpected happens. Bjorn awakens. He squints through the dim light, adjusting to the brightness like a cat confronted with the glaring sunlight. He cracks a smile that says it all. Another day to survive this chilly circus. The thrill of winter survival is upon them all, combined with the mental gymnastics required to begin the day in such wonderfully rustic fashion. But wait, it's time to gather more firewood. Bjorn realizes he has to venture out into the freezing abyss that is to say, the backyard, which is, let's face it, an ice-covered field with the additional hazard of sheep lurking around, eager to share their opinions on his choice of tunics. So, as Bjorn reluctantly moves through the tiny door, the smell of fresh air hits him like a brick wall, refreshing, but also the cold slap of reality. Outside, it's a whole new level of chilly chaos. And just like that, you begin to slip into a cozy slumber filled with thoughts of woolly wonders, chilly mornings, and oddly endearing struggles in a world where warmth was not something to be taken for granted. Stay tuned, there's much more ahead. Asterisk asterisk. Chapter 5, The Warmth of Survival asterisk asterisk. Welcome back, brave time traveler. As we sink deeper into our cozy exploration of Iron Age Scandinavia, let's direct our attention toward the flickering heart of every longhouse, the central fire. As we inch closer, those dim embers appear to be doing their best to stay awake, teetering on the edge of life like a buddy who had one too many at the frosty feast last night. You might think it's just an innocent little fire, but trust me, it's the sole oxygen of survival in a world where winter would sooner see you frozen solid than cozy. Imagine for a moment you've just awoken from a very uneasy slumber, sharing that delightful hovel with Bjorn, his sister, and potentially an army of sheep if last night's accommodations were accurate. The smell of mystery porridge is about to slap you back into reality faster than a deer dodging an arrow. It's early morning, and you're drawn in by the captivating sight of the dying fire, its glowing embers whispering sweet nothings of warmth into the frigid air. Your first question, how do you keep a fire alive when it feels like an ice cube has just established dominion over your unyielding heart? That's the trick. Bjorn's parents have perfected the delicate art of fire tending over the years, spinning a saga of how to coax reluctant flames like a mother talking her teenage son into doing laundry. You may burn your eyebrows off while struggling to create a spark, but for these seasoned Scandinavians, it's second nature, an essential life skill akin to remembering to put on pants before leaving the house. You sit up groggily, fighting the urge to shiver as the cold air envelops you. Is that a bit of frost forming on your nose? Whoops! This isn't quite the Instagrammable winter scene you'd hoped for, is it? The fire is not just a source of warmth. It's the natural icebreaker at family gatherings. You have conversations about the weather that would make a meteorologist cry, while also subtly reminding everyone that at least we're not dead yet. Each day begins with a ritual, firewood collection. It's less charming than it sounds. You're about to don your woolen tunic, which, by the way, could double as a tent, if need be. But that's later. First, you have to negotiate with Bjorn over who gets to carry the logs. It's a tense standoff, far more riveting than any medieval duel. In the spirit of fairness, you end up wrestling over who gets to wear the cool goat hide scarf. Spoiler alert, it's completely uncool. It smells of adventure and a week-old fish head, with a strong undertone of, did little Bessie just sit on it? Now picture Bjorn flinging the door open. A rush of icy air goes swooping in, making your skin prickle like a squirrel that just heard a very bad pun. The backyard is an endless wonderland of white, glittering frost, each flake a reminder that, hey, nature really doesn't care about your existential dread. It's playtime, much to the dismay of your fingers, which have just about given up on the idea of function. Gathering firewood seems straightforward until you realize that half the logs are embedded in ice, like ancient relics. It's like trying to unearth a lost treasure, only you're half sure it'll either bite you or stick you with a splinter the size of a Viking sword. At one point, you squint suspiciously at a log that looks suspiciously like it might have eyes, and soon enough, it's wooden log. 1, 0. As Bjorn barrels back with a handful of logs, you've discovered a new form of competitive sport, firewood flicking. No one else seems enthused, but they're all part of the audience for this bizarre reality show, where everyone ends up competing for the title of least likely to freeze to death. With each flick of wood into the embers, Bjorn has prepared himself for the most alert and important endeavor of the day, ensuring that tiny flames leap back into life like an overenthusiastic cheerleader. By now, you can practically hear that little fire begging, "Please, just throw in the last scrap of ancient porridge before my embers cry for help." So, someone politely retrieves the leftovers from last night. Even your best buddy would shout, "Why did I defrost that?" But you take a deep breath, convincing yourself this is all part of a successful survival plan. A little mystery flavor, a little wooden magic, and voila, victory. Of course, there's the delightful challenge of managing the smoke that billows up in dense grey clouds. You quickly find yourself half stepping outside, half tearing up, and half laughing. The three halves are vital for survival. You've become a professional smoke dodger, akin to performing a strange dance reserved for that one ancient rite. Not that anyone has a clue about the moves, but you try to look graceful, flopping like a confused fish while waving your arms in a peculiar ballet of disaster. Just think of it as your own personal winter workout with an icy twist. Who needs a gym membership in such a setting anyway, am I right? At last, you're rewarded with the satisfying crackle of the fire coming back to life. Victory tastes sweet, if roasted goat hair could produce such a thing. Gathered with the family cozying up like marinated fish on a platter, you finally understand the essential truth of this world. You can struggle, shiver, and roll your eyes in the frosty cosmos, but if that little cherished fire is still breathing, every day is an adventure in survival. So, as you sink back into the warmth of imagination and let Bjorn and his family's plight carry you through the night, prepare to chuckle into blissful slumber at the absurdity of it all. Just know that amidst the smoke, chuckles, and wood-splitting gymnastics, life in Iron Age Scandinavia has a way of wrapping around you, much like that ridiculously oversized woolen tunic, pretending to be stylish. The night awaits, and as the echoes of ancient laughter and warmth seep into your dreams, rest assured, you're never too far from the glow of survival's warm embrace. *** Chapter 6 The Family Bunkhouse of Misery ***. Welcome back, my drowsy historians. Snuggle in tight, because tonight, we're venturing into a space cozier than a woolly mammoth's armpit, or at least that's the goal in Iron Age Scandinavia. Imagine a longhouse, vast and sprawling like an old sweater that your grandmother insists on knitting you every holiday season. Here, families and livestock alike cram together to brave the bone-chilling cold because sometimes, huddling with your neighbor's goats is the only way to stay warm. Now, picture this. You've just rolled onto your cozy, straw-stuffed bed, which is basically where most of the family takes up residence. And by family, I mean everyone from little Bjorn to great-grandma Gudrun and the occasional pig that thinks it's part of the clan. The walls are built of woven branches and clay, a millennia-old version of thickening the plot and doing its absolute best to hold back the relentless gusts of winter. The lowing of cows provides a bizarre soundtrack to the daily hustle and bustle, and these sounds mix with the faint, inevitable scent of smoke wafting from the fire, a smell you've grown to embrace, like a smelly old friend at a party. You might wonder if it's ever awkward sharing a space with a herd of animals. It's more than just awkward. It's like being at the family reunion nobody wanted to attend. Picture sitting down for dinner with a pig named Porky and trying to convince your family that, yes, that's a new recipe rather than last week's mash finely disguised. Honestly, it could be worse. Porky could be judging your potato-toting skills. Speaking of potatoes, let's not forget the abundant pleasures that accompany this exquisite arrangement. The aroma of breakfast this morning is somewhere between mystery porridge and a faint whiff of regret. As you lean closer, you can practically hear the grains protesting from their ancient pot. Help us. We weren't meant to be this mushy. It's like a culinary betrayal of epic proportions, but alas, you've accepted your fate as the official sampler in residence. Now let's discuss the intriguing concept of personal space in a longhouse. You could say it's almost non-existent. The warm air rises, the smoke dissipates, and before you know it, you're accidentally mingling with a goat that insists on headbutting you for apparent scratchies. Is that friendship or merely a warning? It's tough to say, but communication has never been clearer. Bjorn's sister, on the other hand, seems to enjoy her personal bubble of solitude amidst the chaos, shoving Porky away with a disgruntled sigh as he tries to commandeer her portion of breakfast mush. As you settle back into your luxurious straw domain, just remember how resourceful these folks are. It's essentially a crammed survival reality show, with participants expertly avoiding frostbite while juggling barnyard responsibilities. The inevitable question arises: how do you handle nighttime duties when the open-air restroom is effectively a frozen tundra? It's less about dignity and more about speed. You stealthily dodge the gaze of family members who might already be snoozing, dreaming of far-off lands without the scent of sheep and smoke clogging their nostrils. It's a high-stakes game of who's more frozen, as you fend off glaciers creeping up your woolen tunic. A peculiar smell wafts in from the corner. Ah, yes, the earthy aroma that everyone pretends not to notice, collected from the fine balance of children's mischievous antics and Pigsaurus rex's various contributions to the compost pile. It wafts candy-like into the air, just shy of a foul mood or a sudden understanding that sometimes, realizing what you're inhaling is a bit too much sensory data to digest. Let's not forget the awkward family dynamics that unravel like an unspooled skein of yarn on an enthusiastic cat. You, dear listener, may experience some common family struggles during mealtimes. Picture crouching within arm's reach of your brother and his lingering fishy aroma that wafts through the longhouse like a peculiar cologne. Even more unsettling, everyone shares every morsel, half reminiscing and half re-strategizing their next attempt at avoiding the unfortunate fate of being voted least desirable hog for the winter. And as you find yourself lost in this madness of laughter, you might wonder how the true mystery of survival in Iron Age Scandinavia unfolds. Every day is an epic saga of conflict and camaraderie, where the stakes are as high as the walls. Seriously, these people didn't build them for decoration. The longhouse breathes, exhales layers of existence, and somehow, amidst the smell of wool and wood smoke, you begin to realize a comfortable truth. The snowy apocalypse is just another family cooking night, armed with a plucky spirit, and the occasional riotous laughter, reminiscent of outdated quests undertaken by strong warriors, or at least congratulatory pats on the back for not setting the goat on fire while battling the frost. So, as the cozy conclusion wraps around you, take a deep breath amidst the musings of winter and the calls of distant livestock echoing through these walls. Rest assured that, all together now, truly, you couldn't make this up. Sleep well, surrounded by the warmth of absurdity. ***. Chapter 7. The Crusty Chronicles of Youth in Iron Age Scandinavia. ***. Hey guys, welcome back. Relax, stretch out, and prepare yourself for a frosty adventure colder than your ex-boyfriend's sense of style. Tonight, we delve into the life of an Iron Age Scandinavian youth whose daily routine is just an epic saga of surviving the bitter. Grill your nose off cold and the subtle charm of smoke. But before we plow into the frigid depths of history, I'd love for you to engage with this peculiar voyage. Like, subscribe, and comment below only if you really enjoy it, though. No pressure. Now, go ahead and dim those lights, maybe kick on a fan to replicate that within a campfire smoked longhouse ambiance. Grab an extra blanket, because trust me, these frosty tales come wrapped in woolly discomfort, and get comfortable. Have you ever wondered what it would be like sharing a home with half your village and a herd of goats, all while juggling the responsibilities of being the gross-smelling kid in the family? Or who decided that a warm bath was for the elite while you're stuck living like a candle buried under a pile of sheep? What about that heart-stopping moment when you realize the last bit of firewood is missing and you can't decide if your fingers are going numb from the frost or the sheer panic of facing a night with no heat? Congratulations, my friend. You've just woken up in 200 AD Scandinavia, where the air is crisp, your bed is a straw-stuffed bargain bin wonder, and every breath you take carries hints of smoke and despair, well, mostly smoke. So, picture yourself as a sprightly youth, maybe named Bjorn. You rub your eyes, caked with a delightful layer of smoky residue, remnants from the family bonfire that seems to have become your second home, because let's be honest, it's been weeks since your last true bath. Your skin is a lovely shade of grime, a fashion statement unknown to modern skincare routines. And while it may sound vogue in today's climate, literally and metaphorically, you could say you're a pioneer in the earthy aroma movement. Let's talk about your hair, shall we? It carries more campfire scent than an overly enthusiastic barbecue expert desperately trying to show off at a picnic. Remember when people thought running your fingers through your hair brought you closer to your natural self? Well, in your case, it feels more like a heartfelt reunion with a long-lost bonfire. And here you are, dodging the wills of nature without modern conveniences like running water or a proper shower. Ever tried to clean your armpits with cold soup? Let me tell you, that search for clean skin becomes pretty much a futile attempt at a comedy sketch gone wrong. Your mornings begin with more anticipation than a reality show contestant hoping to avoid elimination. Now, speaking of mornings, imagine waking up to the teasing sounds of your family engaging in their morning rituals while the fire smolders. Breath rolls in the air like little ghostly reminders of what warmth used to feel like. Your siblings are practicing something resembling synchronized grumbling while trying to decipher the finer points of porridge, the 2 pots of boiling mystery that more likely needs a seafaring wizard to make sense of. There's no point in being picky, you think, when breakfast might do you the favor of keeping me alive for one more day. You lean in gingerly, hoping that what you see looks somewhat edible. Spoiler alert, it's not. It's more akin to a thick, gluey paste clinging to your spoon as if it has your back in the battle against, well, flavor. Ah, young Bjorn, you've got an important role in the saga of survival like that trusty nibbler of your family's nightly porridge. The stakes are high, and every meal is a potential minefield not just for your taste buds, but for your very existence. Do you dare dive into mystery porridge? Or do you throw caution to the wind and go all in? Decisions that could very well haunt you for the rest of your longhouse days. As you ponder your fate, the faint smell of wood smoke lingers, despite you thinking you've gotten used to it. The warmth of the hearth is your best friend as you watch log after log tumble into the fire, speculating on which part of the family would give you their blessings to use that last piece of birch without starting a full-on civil war over a lack of kindling. In contemporary terms, it's tantamount to a game of who packs the best snacks for road trips, with severe consequences if you misjudge the snack-to-travel ratio. Every morning brings a new expectation, a roller coaster of potential disaster lurking behind every straw-filled corner. Like, do you drop your bread onto the communal floor, the equivalent of signing off on a gourmet trash experience, and brace yourself for the backlash of being the floor-bred kid? You haven't even stepped outside yet, and already you can feel the icy grip of winter gnawing at your toes like an over-enthusiastic puppy meeting a stranger. But soon enough, you'll venture into the snow-laden world beyond your cozy, mucky abode, determined to dodge frostbite and perhaps secure a better breakfast square. You see, winter has its own rules, and you're learning them. The art of survival really boils down to sharing space, both cozy and cramped, sustaining friendships with goats and pigs as frequently as you shout at your siblings. Truly, you couldn't make this up. So, as your eyelids grow heavier amid the echoes of laughter and misadventures of youth in Iron Age Scandinavia, be at peace. This journey is but a slice of life, an absurd tale of warmth, camaraderie, and the relentless stench of existence. Sleep well, dear listener. *** Chapter 8. The Scent of Survival Longhouse Life in Iron Age Scandinavia ***. Hey guys. Grab a cozy blanket and settle in as we meander through the lingering smells of Iron Age Scandinavia, where life is basically a daily masterclass in living through the overpowering aroma of animal sweat, campfire smoke, and simply, well, grim reality. Tonight, we dive deep into the air thick enough to cut with a bone knife. Trust me, at least you won't have to worry about the waft of last night's dinner lingering in your apartment like an unwanted echo. But first, if you're enjoying this wild ride through history, feel free to like, subscribe, and drop a comment, only if you're genuinely into it, though. No pressure. Now, dim the lights, crank on that fan to simulate the brisk atmosphere of a smoky longhouse, and get comfortable. Perhaps make yourself a cup of something warm, though I wouldn't exactly describe your upcoming experience as a Michelin star meal. Imagine now that you're snug in your longhouse, named Freya, or something equally fitting for an epic survival story. You're surrounded by the heady scent of your distant relatives, which is so strong it practically has its own poster by the door. I'm talking about the aroma of everyone's combined smoky breath, mixed with the delightful musk of a dozen goats who clearly didn't sign up for group living arrangements. Now let's ponder some curious questions. What was it like deciding whether to breathe through your mouth or your nose when all options involved a gamble on someone else's supper? Ever wondered what genius thought that being packed like sardines with half your village was a prime real estate opportunity? Or who determined that a few cozy blankets over straw beds would be considered a 5-star experience? Spoiler alert, it was probably Bjorn, the kid who spent a bit too much time getting cozy with the piglet. Congratulations, you've just awakened in the year 200 AD, a magical time where breathing is an adventure and washing is fantasy. Surrounding you is a longhouse that is less perfect dwelling and more like a low-budget camp project gone awry. This massive timber structure is teetering on the edge of structural integrity. If it were any more rustic, it would have its own Instagram page dedicated to post-apocalyptic vibes. Now, let's talk about the atmosphere in this longhouse. The air carries the distinct combination of smoke, sweat, and whatever that mystery stew was of last night. It's basically a potpourri of survival. The fire in the hearth is like an overworked co-worker, struggling to keep everyone warm while filling the room with enough acrid smoke to make you question your life choices. But oh, that glorious warmth. As you sit up, your woolen tunic clings to you like it has made life decisions on your behalf. The straw bed beneath you has transformed into a delightful nest of assorted smells, primarily consisting of whatever the animals have generously left behind, and as you wiggle your toes, you realize they are no warmer than the outside air. Breathe deeply, and you'll likely notice the lingering traces of last week's fancy porridge. You were told it was a feast. All that remains is a thick, gluey residue clinging to your taste buds. Breakfast is on the agenda, and trust me, it's going to be more interesting than a food truck menu in a hipster cafe. Step outside. Actually, wait. Take a moment to inspect what might just be the original version of waiting for your turn to shower. An epic battle of sorts to get at least half clean while negotiating extensions of personal space with your siblings and that dewy piglet that has taken a liking to your left sock. Now, let's tackle the wonderful communal breakfast. The family gathers around the hearth for a morning meal that looks like it's spent the night crawling out of the never-again bin. You'll join your relatives in enjoying mystery porridge, which is honestly just a game of guess what you'll be eating today. Will it be the flavor of despair or last week's meat? Spoiler, probably the despair. Don't be picky, it's keeping us from freezing. You tell yourself as you dip your spoon into the pot, eliciting sounds that would make a modern chef weep. Ever tried lifting a spoonful of food so gloppy, it feels like you're sculpting a miniature mountain? It's like trying to maneuver a brick while blindfolded. You might think you're brave for diving headfirst into that artifact of breakfast. However, remember what emerges can be worse than any weird cooking show challenge you've ever seen. The alarmingly thick mixture could easily double as non-Newtonian fluid. If you eat this and survive, you're already winning at life. You assure yourself, channeling your inner Viking spirit. As breakfast winds down and the aroma mixes with the cool drafts of the morning, you consider that your biggest survival challenge today might just be deciding who gets the last bite of yesterday's mystery stew. It's a brutal, reality check kind of game essentially, the Iron Age Olympics of sibling rivalry. The Longhouse isn't just a home, it's an arena where breakfast legends are made and laughter dances through the thick air. The morning awaits with frozen quests for firewood and thrilling encounters with the goats, who seem to have formed their own bustling society right outside the Longhouse. Who knew you'd need to negotiate a goat's emotional well-being before you can stake your claim on a piece of your homeland? So, breathe it all in, and as you drift off into a world where warm beds are made of straw and breakfast is a structured minefield of historical comedies, remember that life has a scent, a yearning pulse, and a peculiar brand of humor. The Iron Age is much like modern life, a mishmash of too many smells and little clarity. Sleep well, dear listener. Chapter 9. The dreaded morning chores, hunting and gathering in Iron Age Scandinavia. Hey guys, welcome back. As the dawn peeks in, you may want to pull your blankets a little closer. Today, we take a deep dive into the riveting world of morning chores. Oh yes, more thrilling than any New Year's resolution to exercise. Seriously, you'll want to stretch those cozy limbs, because it's about to get as exciting as watching paint dry, except that paint is made of frost, and it might just freeze your fingers off. Let's sink into the reality of Iron Age Scandinavia, where your to-do list consists of delightful tasks like hauling water, chopping wood, and wrestling goats. Yes, wrestling goats, a sport they absolutely did not have in the Olympics of the time. Remember to like, subscribe, and drop a comment if you're vibing with this exhilarating journey. But only if you genuinely enjoy it. We're not dragging anyone into the world of mildly interesting history against their will. So, dim those lights, maybe crank on that fan to emulate a chilly morning breeze, and prepare to slip into your Viking boots. Ever wondered how ancient Scandinavians woke up in the dead of winter? Spoiler alert, they didn't have snooze buttons or fluffy slippers. Instead, just think of it, as waking to the sound of your own snoring and realizing you've turned into a mini ice sculpture overnight. Congratulations, you've just rolled out of bed in 200 AD, and as you stretch, your body's response feels less like, ah, a new day, and more like, help, I'm encased in frostbite. You glance around the longhouse, half expecting the cattle to be lining up in a Starbucks-like order for breakfast. You plaster on a smile and greet the day because that's what your ancestors would have wanted, right? Swoosh. You're out the door, instantly hit with the brisk chill that feels like you've face-planted into a snowbank. The sky stretches above you like a bruised fruit, turning grey and ominous. Your first task? Fetching water. You plod over to the nearby stream, which has questionable levels of hygiene. Ever try washing your face in water colder than your ex's heart? Picture this, you're standing there, water splashing like a high-stakes game of dodgeball, and all you can think is how you'd trade half your goats for a hot shower. Here's a fun fact, there would be absolutely no hot showers today either. Let's talk about the thrill of fetching water. It's not like a charming afternoon with friends. It's a contest showcasing your ability not to slip on ice, spill, or drop your bucket into the icy abyss. And God forbid you've got a few mischievous goats trailing you like 5-year-olds at the candy store. You can lead a goat to water. You murmur under your breath, but you can't make it stop chewing on your cloak. Ah yes, goats, the original fashion influencers, warning you in advance that your coat is a whole snack. Once, you've achieved the remarkable feat of hauling water back without drowning in your scarf. It's time to tackle the pleasant task of chopping wood. Because, of course, you need enough firewood to keep your longhouse toasty warm, despite the fact that you feel like a frostbitten marshmallow just standing there. Ever tried swinging an axe while regretting every life choice that led you to this moment? Look, everybody. I'm on the wood chopping Olympics team. All I need is a motivational goat. There you go, you've just achieved your own form of sport called Guess Who Can Lose a Toe First. But alas, the real fun begins after breakfast. Ever tried cooking with a fire that's starkly chasing your dreams away? You gather your family for a delightful communal meal that's about as appealing as cardboard soaking in vinegar. Welcome to Mystery Stew. Now with extra dread. As you stare into the pot, you wonder if the last meal was determined by a particularly ambitious goat. You dip your spoon in, and it's like wading through lava, but hey, at least it's hot. Now that you've fortified yourself with dubious calories, it's time to venture out for the day's most intriguing challenge, gathering food. You'll need to hunt or forage. Trust me, calling it shopping would imply a level of comfort akin to browsing the snack aisle at your local grocery store. Here, the animals don't just stand still for inspection, and there's no aisle 7 for convenience. Imagine scanning the snowy landscape for a dinner option. Do I go for the rabbit, or perhaps a delicious mystery berry that might just be poison? Life decisions. And if you're lucky, you might come across berries nestled beneath the snow, waiting to be plucked, reminding you just how much life liked to play a game of do I kill you or nourish you. As the day wears on, you may encounter some less than friendly wildlife, or perhaps a neighbor who thinks your goat looks a bit too chubby. Let's be real, goats are known for their distinct personalities. No, my dear neighbor, I won't trade you for your fine quality cheese. Touch my goat, and you'll find out why Vikings are known for their strength. As you head back, arms full of food like a reverse Santa Claus, consider that your longhouse stands as a fortress against the elements, and sometimes against the very goats you thought were adorable. Yes, there's a bizarre irony in using livestock to both feed you and hinder your escape routes. You summarize your day, and what have you learned? It's mostly about being grateful for your warm straw bed, your quirky family, and the goats that think they're your best friends. Because, really, surviving in Iron Age Scandinavia comes down to a delightful mix of camaraderie, endless chores, and just enough insanity to keep things interesting. Sleep tight, dear listener, for tomorrow holds more adventures, more running with goats, mystery stew, and perhaps a life or death struggle over the last piece of bread. Just another day in the magical, mildly interesting wonderland of Iron Age Scandinavia. Chapter 10. The plight of the barefoot tyrant, one boy's struggle, against cold and expectations, Hey guys. Welcome back. Tonight, we're diving into something colder than a polar bear's toenails. Life as a 4-year-old in Iron Age Scandinavia. Yes, It's a turbulent journey filled with frozen feet, unsympathetic livestock, and the harsh reality of having no Netflix. Honestly, if you think your teenage years were rough because your mum wouldn't let you go to the school dance, just wait until you hear about running errands with frostbite as your new best friend. So, if you haven't done so yet, now's the perfect time to grab your cozy blanket, or, at the very least, something that slightly resembles clothing. Like and subscribe if you'd like to keep journeying through mildly interesting history though, only if you actually enjoy it. Picture this. It's 200 AD, and you wake up wrapped in the soft embrace of goose feathers. Oh wait, no. That's just cold air nipping at your skin. You glance around your longhouse, half expecting to find a herd of goats waiting to join you for breakfast. Instead, all you see is a sparsely furnished room, likely smelling of last night's mystery stew, mixed with the strong essence of, is that my foot, or is it a frozen carrot? So let me ask you, have you ever stood on a surface so cold it felt like Mother Nature was giving you a personal foot massage with ice cubes? Or perhaps you've ever looked down and thought, hey, I'm a teenager embarking on an epic journey, but I can't quite feel my toes anymore. Well, congratulations, you're living your best life as a 4-year-old Scandinavian, standing on packed earth that doubles as a popsicle maker. You're standing there, trying to ignore how your young joints are cracking like an old man who's just discovered yoga. This floor? It's like a frozen hellscape, and you, dear listener, are its unsuspecting victim. Survival is already etching itself onto your body, and you feel less like a Viking warrior and more like a human fridge. And just when you think it can't get worse, you hear the unmistakable baa of the goats, voicing their grievances about their breakfast options, because nothing says family drama quite like an opinionated goat family. Let's talk about your morning routine. Ever fancied having the luxurious choice of whether to wear wool socks or choose to brave the icy floors barefoot and become a living winter sculpture? No? Well, too bad, because your future self begs to differ as the chill of the earth seeps into your bones. You hesitate, and for a moment, contemplate yelling, "I'm not even cold," as a warm-up exercise, even though everyone knows your face has turned into a frozen tomato. And putting one foot in front of the other requires more courage than a dramatic reunion at a reality TV show. You finally manage to shuffle to the doorway, where the wintry wind hits you like a cold slap. In your previously dreamy vision of morning cheer, outside, the frozen tundra greets you like an uninvited guest no one wants to serve tea to. Ever tried to open a door only to unleash a hulking wall of cold? It's like using a can opener on a can that refuses to be opened. Once outside, your first task is to fetch water. And this isn't just any water, it's crystallized hopes and dreams, trapped in a body of ice that could only be more delightful if it were actively melting and accidentally becoming a water slide. You plod over to the stream, convinced that it must be a local river of regret, where every drip tells the story of a peasant's misadventures with frozen fingers. As you fumble with your bucket, trying to remember what ancient wisdom you read about stepping on ice, spoiler, it doesn't exist. A goat sidles up next to you, licking your cloak. Thanks for that, Bessie. I really wanted to be reminded that my life choices have led to breakfast for a goat. But despite the occasional smirks of your misfit companions, you lift your bucket with a newfound sense of, let's call it, determined awkwardness. Success, you exclaim, only to lose your footing and send half the water cascading back into the stream. Bonus points for elegance, right? On your way back, you find yourself almost slipping on your own stylized footwear, which, let's hope, didn't also magically become one with the ice. Now, let's navigate the thrill of wood chopping. Oh yes, wielding an axe in an attempt to supply your longhouse with heat is about as comfortable as sitting on a cactus while wearing denim shorts. If you thought your after-school job was rough, imagine slicing through logs while trying to avoid dreaming about the sweet embrace of warmth. Ever swung an axe with all the grace of a baby giraffe on roller skates? Yes, just like that. Why must the universe challenge my personal warmth? You mutter under your breath, delivering a heady monologue about life choices that could rival a Shakespearean tragedy, only with fewer dramatic soliloquies and more splinters. Finally, you sit down to a breakfast that may require a whole new definition of gourmet. Welcome to Mystery Stew now, with what you're quite certain are yesterday's regrets and some random herbs you'd rather forget. Bon appétit, you declare, as everyone holds their breath, half expecting the pot to rebel against its job. So here you are, dear young Viking, a mere 14 years of age, and you're already an expert in the art of balancing your dignity and a hearty meal that resembles a history lesson gone terribly wrong. Tomorrow, more adventures await, like dodging goats and perfecting your water-fetching routine, because life in Iron Age Scandinavia is the ultimate survival game. You'd better bring your best ice cream scooper for that frozen terrain. Sleep tight, dear listener, and remember tomorrow is just a fun-filled day of butchery and frostbite in the making. Asterisk asterisk, Chapter 11. The Enigma of the Odorous Sheepskin. Asterisk asterisk. Hey guys, welcome back to another chilly episode of How on Earth, where even the Vikings are asking, is this the best we can do? Tonight, we journey deeper into Iron Age Scandinavia, where the boys are awkwardly attempting to herd goats, the girls are definitely rolling their eyes at them, and everyone is just trying to avoid frostbite while sporting the latest in hide and collect your smell fashion. That's right, folks, tonight, we discuss the steamy dynamics of sheepskin and its role in teenage angst. Picture it now, you are a young Scandinavian lad, and let me tell you, your morning aroma, nearly as potent as a barrel of fermented herring. But not just any barrel, I'm talking about a barrel nestled in a winter storm while a family of goats debates existentialism next to you. But back to that beloved sheepskin. Why wear it, you ask? It's simple. It could mean the difference between life and frostbite. Plus, there's an unspoken agreement that sheer necessity sometimes trumps olfactory pleasure. So let's get comfy for a moment. You're huddled in your longhouse, wearing that sheepskin, a clump of fur that smells like a wet dog caught in a rainstorm. Somehow, that dreadful scent is mixed with a hint of last week's dinner. Yes, you can indeed be breathing in the very essence of a sheep that may or may not have been friends with your breakfast. As you pull your trusty sheepskin closer, your nose crinkles in protest. You can almost hear your mother saying, "It's good for you," in a tone that suggests love, but reeks of betrayal. Ever wonder what goes through a sheep's mind while you're wearing its former skin? It's probably something like, seriously, you couldn't at least wash it? Ah, the complexities of sheep relationships. But look at the bright side, sheepskin offers warmth that your wool cloak just can't compete with. It's like wrapping yourself in a blanket of insistent love from an animal that has no idea it's been turned into your protective gear. And let's be honest, the sheep has no vote in this wardrobe choice. The trade-off is pungent, but at least you're not a human popsicle. You're just a little more fragrant than your average teenager oversized ego. Now, let's take a moment to appreciate the fantasy of standard teenage issues in this era. Think about it. Would you rather face the social ramifications of a bad haircut, or be caught in the tundra draped in smelly sheepskin? Talk about grave concerns. Seriously though, your social standing is at stake here. The bi-monthly who smells the worst contest. You could win that for sure. Your friends are probably making bets as we speak. Dude, my money's on Olaf, his sheepskin's practically a personality at this point. But survival means looking the part, doesn't it? You need to take on the "I can handle winter like a Viking" look as you march out to make more evening stew. And who wouldn't want their attire judged solely on the "can I withstand an avalanche while being licked by goats" scale? It's a robust choice of armor that also doubles as a sheep tribute. You might as well call yourself the captain of unwashed fleece. As you make your way outside, a chilling gust of wind greets you. It rushes in like your overly dramatic cousin who can't take a hint. All it does is serve as reminder #942 that you made questionable fashion choices. Trying to look cool in this weather is akin to donning flip-flops in a snowstorm, brave but utterly foolish. Now, as you navigate the outdoor terrain, and the ice beneath you resembles a gladiator's arena for your clumsy attempts at balance, you waddle toward the fire pit. There it is, welcoming you like your long-lost friends at a reunion of unflattering fashion choices. Come, my fellow warriors, share in the smoke that lingers like last night's embarrassing dance moves. A gentle reminder that winter really brings out the best in everyone's charm. While hunting down the perfect spot for your next culinary disaster, you can't help but notice the frantic debate among the goats. One is clearly making a case for eating more sheepskin. Come on, they'll never notice if we just nibble on the edges. Seems to be a solid plan. Meanwhile, you yell at them to keep their opinions to themselves. But, Just as you're about to scold the herd, you stumble over a particularly frozen patch of ground and redefine balance in ways that would confuse even the best acrobat. Just another day in the life of a sheepskin-clad Iron Age teen, you mutter through clenched teeth, because who needs an embarrassing goat moment followed by enigma faceplants? Life often hands you quirky occurrences, and this one is just a circus act highlighting your epic battle between dignity and robust survival. And so, dear listeners, next time you see someone struggling to find warmth or balance in a colder-than-life environment, think of you wrapped up in your sheepskin armor, battling the very essence of sheep. May your dreams be filled with the comfort of wool, the warmth of your surroundings, and a faint whiff of airborne goat just to keep it real. After all, who needs the scent of lavender when you can faintly smell the playful antics of farm life trailing behind you? Sleep tight, and don't let the frozen goats bite. Asterisk, asterisk. Chapter 12. Firewood, and the art of not freezing to death. Asterisk, asterisk. Hey guys. Welcome back to another super chill episode of How on Earth, where even the firewood seems to be asking itself, is it too late to call in sick to winter? Tonight, we dive into the frosty world of Iron Age Scandinavia, where survival tips are as common as frozen noses and questionable dance moves at family gatherings. We'll explore how our Scandinavian pals kept warm without so much as a hot cocoa in sight. So, grab your imaginary sheepskin, dim the lights, and slip into something that smells like last week's dinner, because here's where the comedy begins. But first, have you ever wondered what it's like to wake up and realize that your house is colder than your ex's heart? Or how about this? Have you ever thought about how awesome a lumberjack's job would be until you realize you can't even chop wood without freezing your fingers off? Honestly, what were these poor souls doing for entertainment? I mean, sorry, I can't go out tonight. I'm busy trying to avoid frostbite. Sounds like the worst excuse ever. Congratulations. You've just woken up in 200 AD. And let me tell you, the weather forecast is bleak, or as bleak as your neighbor's homemade barley ale. So, you rise from your straw-stuffed bed like a zombie trying to decide whether to seize the day or crawl back under the blankets. Spoiler alert, crawling back isn't on the agenda. The fire in your hearth is barely alive. More of a suggestion at this point, whispering, I could be warm, but I won't. Let's talk about firewood. You step outside, and if warmth were a stock, you'd be investing heavily in firewood. You quickly scan the walls where a pile of dry branches that looks like it should have been used for a Pinterest project a millennium ago stands. As you grab at the wood, you can't help but think it's like sorting your relationship choices. Some are fresh and promising, while others are just twisted sticks that wound up here somehow. You haul a few of the drier, cracked branches towards your hearth, and boy, are you regretting that last hasty step. It's as if the sub-zero wind recognized your intention. It dances through the frozen air, hitting you with all the subtlety of a disgruntled ex. Ain't you cute, thinking you'll be warm? It seems to taunt. All you can do is mumble incoherently about how, weather permitting, you'll have a chance at not becoming a Viking popsicle. As you bend down to ignite the embers, your fingers brush against what was once a dry piece of wood but now has the texture reminiscent of day-old porridge after too many sub-zero temperatures. The fire in your hearth, which you can now see as a distant relative of the logs you wish to burn, stirs a little as if to assert that it's still here. See, I still exist. Now, do your part. With flint in hand, you try to coax the hesitant flames into a frenzy. It's a classic case of I promise I can dance the Macarena, but not until I consume 3 more cups of coffee. The sparks shoot up like tiny fireworks, joyfully breaking the dismal ambience. And, just like that, you remember, lighting a fire is sort of like the ultimate social media moment. You're flicking your creativity like a match and hoping for good reception from your audience of sweet, sweet warmth. Now, as the fire begins to crackle to life, conjuring memories of golden days filled with laughter and fleeting warmth, you marvel at how crucial this small act is. It's not just about warmth, it's about gathering your friends, goats, and maybe even that awkward neighbor who never seems to take a hint. You can almost hear the gossip swirling. Olaf's finally managing to make fire. Think he'll add those dance moves. Ah yes, speaking of goats, the chaotic brigade of bleats punctuates the air like an unwelcomed soundtrack. Their confused expressions are constructive criticism for your budding fire-making abilities. Perhaps they're questioning your expertise or wondering if they can borrow some wood to get their own hearth going, because let's be real, goat fashion is simply no match for winter's chill. Once the fire is roaring like your uncle after his third round of mead, it creates a lovely place to bask. It's a gathering point where everyone can nod knowingly, sharing layers of furs and laughter while trying their best to dodge whatever life throws at them, be it frosty winds or existential questions. So, as you settle in next to the flame, you can't help but appreciate how pivotal this is. It's a safe space ritual, the original let's sit by the fire and talk about our social media mishaps of its time. The wooden walls creak a melody of solidarity, a symphony composed of branches dancing gently in the warmth. And here, in this moment, life feels lighter, even if only by a few degrees. As the warmth sinks in, prompting you to let your guard down and your body relax, you realize that requires a sense of community, and besides, who knew survival would come with such a side of comedy? Surrounded by your pack of questionable company, it turns out warmth can indeed be bright and cozy, even if it also brings with it the scent of burning wood, a definitive touch of smoke, and a faint whiff of your last unfortunate dance near the goats. It's as if a gentle reminder floats through the room. Embrace warmth while you can. For when even a spark can feel monumental, you have officially overcome winter's chill, one dry stick at a time. So sleep well tonight, dear listeners. Dream of cozy fires, smoky evenings, and let's face it, a few too many goats in need of some romance advice. Be kind to your fellow humans, and remember, you're never really alone when everyone is huddled together in a sheepskin fort, fighting the bone-chilling cold. Asterisk, asterisk. Chapter 13. Smoke and Mirrors. How Technology Saved Scandinavian Lungs. Asterisk, asterisk. Hey guys, tonight, we're diving into something sharper than your uncle's wit, after a few too many mugs of mead. A world where smoke plumes like the puffing dance moves of a Viking after a hearty feast. Yes, we're talking about 200 AD Scandinavia, where the air was as thick as a gossiping maiden's fable at the weekly market. Imagine trying to breathe in a room filled with smoke thicker than your Aunt Helga's favorite stew, truly a bone-chilling thought. Before we get cozy by the virtual fire, a little reminder to hit that like button, subscribe, and maybe even leave a comment if you're feeling inspired, but only if you actually enjoy this. Think of it as your modern-day equivalent of giving a nod to a bard after their riveting performance. Now, let's set the scene. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to wake up in a home that feels like a giant, very sweaty sauna, complete with a potential smoke alarm that could very well be your neighbor's goat? Or pondered the idea of breathing in a concoction of various herbal essences, only to realize that perhaps the herbs are a little too charred from last night's dinner? And have you ever tried to find a cure for your smoke-induced coughing fit, while dodging the fact that no one really takes you seriously because, well, you're still wearing last week's tunic? Know this, congratulations. You've just woken up in an Iron Age village, surrounded by lovely thatched roofs, which can only be generously described as natural air filters. But in reality, they could be better labeled as smoke-brewed charcoal inhalers. The first ray of sunlight is battling fiercely with the gloom, and let's be real, it's got as much luck as a one-legged troll with a broken hammer. As you step out of your flimsy straw bed, more like a pile of hay pretending to be a mattress, you can feel the chill of winter creeping in, like that one friend who refuses to take the hint after everyone else has left the party. You can smell it too, a crispy blend of frost, wood smoke, and perhaps that indefinable note of regret from last night's fish stew. Ah yes, the Iron Age aroma, nothing quite like it. While you breathe in deeply, almost too deeply, and attempt to enjoy the ambience, you hear that familiar sound, the thwack of a tool striking wood, echoing through the village like the excited chatter at a knitting circle. Yes, your neighbors are out there crafting their daily survival gear with the newest high-tech innovation of the day, iron tools. These little beauties are like the Swiss Army knives of the Iron Age, though not nearly as versatile. After all, they can't exactly open a bottle of mead without a proficient Viking guide standing by. With sharper edges and sturdier constructions than their wooden predecessors, their ability to craft homes with higher roofs, let's call them the penthouse, chic of 200 AD, means the smoke has a new escape route. It no longer lingers like bad decisions made during last week's market day. Instead, it flows upward, giving your lungs some much-needed respite. One elder in the village once proclaimed, "Oh, my dear, iron tools have saved not only my roof but my wheezing soul." Putting the crankiness of yesteryears behind them, these villagers are now holding gatherings without choking on their own complaints, entirely revolutionary. And what's this? A faint hint of roasted barley wafts through the air, but that only leads to more existential questions. Did you sign up for a community smokehouse, or just another disastrous cooking expedition? The scent dances around your nostrils, enticing and perhaps slightly terrifying. You can practically see the grains, appealing to your hope for a scrumptious breakfast. Ah, but let's talk about the interiors. When you stepped inside your thatched roof abode, you probably pictured something a little less claustrophobic, right? More state-of-the-art home, and less glorified smoke pit. It's a living space that's part cozy retreat, part unfortunate rendezvous with the local wildlife, thanks to the damp greenery hanging very conveniently from above. With these iron tools in hand, carving out a livable space becomes a sort of communal activity, almost akin to a modern, tiny home convention minus the Instagram aesthetics. Instead, it's just you and the neighbor fashioning your surrounding materials in harmony, while fending off thoughts of the draft that's sneaking in through the gaps in the thatch like a raccoon on a mission for snacks. In this quirky setup, the fire pit becomes the hearth of social connections, where stories are shared, laughter rings out, hopefully without a cough this time, and people bond over plates of delightfully charred whatever they could hunt, forage, or trade. You know, just like a contemporary backyard barbecue minus the gluten-free buns and the risk of accidentally pledging allegiance to the neighbor's pet cat. So, as the evening sets in and the glow from tiny flames dances across your smoky living space, you can't help but appreciate how far your people have come. Just imagine, a whole village of witty, smoke-coughing Vikings, celebrating higher ceilings and beefy iron axes while relishing the warmth of shared company, seasoned with a side of hilarity. As you nestle into your woolen cloak, feeling both grateful and slightly overwhelmed by the fluctuating levels of smoke in the air. Just remember, here in 200 AD, every breath you take is a journey through the fire and ash of innovation. So slide into a sweet slumber, dreaming of iron tools, higher roofs, and, let's be real, perhaps that elusive barrel of mead left uneaten in the corner. Sleep soundly, dear listeners. Tomorrow is a new day filled with fields to forage, fires to reignite, and laughter to be had, preferably without noxious storytelling. Asterisk, Chapter 14. Wake-up calls and winter whiffs. The morning routine of Iron Age Scandinavians. Asterisk. Hey guys. As the sun peaks over the horizon and wrestles with a stubborn sleepiness, it's time to experience a spectacle sharper than a sword-wielding Viking's wit. The morning in 200 AD Iron Age Scandinavia. You're about to witness a drama more theatrical than your cousin Brynjar at the last family reunion, a true spectacle of survival, smoke, and questionable breakfast decisions. Before we dive into this frostbitten saga, a gentle reminder to hit that like button, subscribe, and leave a comment. No pressure, though. Consider it a modern-day dap for your humble bard if you find yourself snickering even slightly. So, dim those lights, maybe turn on a fan for that extra chill, and snuggle up cozy. Now, ever wondered what kind of outrageous problems Iron Age Scandinavians faced each morning? Like, how did they handle that brisk morning breeze while simultaneously preventing their fish stew from becoming a frosty popsicle? Or what delightful, and potentially freezing, breakfast they concocted while reminding themselves that slightly burnt was basically gourmet dining back then? Trust me, the answers are just around the corner. Congratulations! You've just woken up in an Iron Age village somewhere between fjord and frost, where the day begins with a cacophony of sounds more chaotic than a goat trying to sing. Outside, the twinkling of metal tools clanks, soft waves lap against the shore like a toddler asking for attention, and that family down the road has kicked off their morning fire with enthusiasm that could rival a modern barbecue day. As you shake off the remnants of sleep, you realize your living space is a genuine delight if you define delight as a chili box decorated with a disheartening blend of smoke and the last remnants of questionable seafood. Ah yes, nothing says good morning like inhaling the remnants of last night's fish feast while dodging the disapproving glance of the village cat, because it's not just you who has expectations around here. You step outside, wrapped in your wool cloak, trying to remember if you're in a dream or just sleepwalking through a rather fashionable episode of Survivor, Frostbite Edition. Your feet, not yet acclimated to the icy ground, send little shocks of psychic messages to your brain, saying, "Hey buddy, it's cold. Maybe reconsider this morning thing." As you glance around the village, the scene unfolds like a bizarre play. There's Thora from down the road, pouring water into the enormous cauldron while trying to shoo away her mischievous kids, who look like miniature Vikings plotting mischief of suspicious grandeur. Honestly, at this point, you wouldn't be surprised if they were secretly summoning the local wildlife for assistance in their early morning antics. With the family's fire-packing prowess wavering just slightly below slightly chaotic, you realize that daily life in this village isn't unlike your weekly grocery run. Picture a throng of New Age villagers hastily gathering their tools, just like you experience vast crowds and questionable decisions over the last loaf of bread at your local store. Iron tools glint in the light, looking sharper than the arguments at last week's knitting circle, all responsible for the morning drama playing out around you. Now, as you wander toward your neighbor's hut, because what's a little neighborly social obligation in the icy glare of morning, you catch a whiff of something that might generously be described as breakfast. Is that roasted barley? It mingles with the air like an unexpected guest at an inappropriate time, definitely intriguing, potentially disastrous. How often have you opened your fridge only to find that leftover takeout from 3 weeks ago you boldly decided not to throw out? Well, the good folks of your Iron Age village live there every day, but their leftovers are a tad less aromatic. "Time to keep warm," yells Bjorn, a burly man with a beard thick enough to conceal the last 5 seasons of bad decisions. He tosses another log onto the fire pit with the enthusiasm of a child at a candy store. Quite simply, people in this era could actually barter to read reports about their hometown, and he definitely would be one of them. Amidst this morning excitement, you realize something magical. For everyone here, like you, getting through the frozen morning means friendly competition over the last bits of firewood and barley. It's like watching the Olympics of survival, but instead of medals, there are cozy shivers and the chance that your feet might not fall off from frostbite today. You lean against a thatched wall, watching the chaos unfold. It's simultaneously absurd and strangely charming, a realm where "let's gather around the fire" takes on a whole new meaning when the fire is more fickle than your ex-partner's promises of monogamy. As smoke unfurls in the morning light, your neighbors laugh over the morning meal or their version of it, which might or might not include some dubious-looking fish, a generous dollop of last week's soup, and a few errant herbs from last summer's batch. If that doesn't sound like a case for food critics from the modern era to have a breakdown, who knows what would? You witness the scene, shaking your head, chuckling to yourself, how could things be so primitive yet somehow delightful? Soon, the fire flickers gently as the cooking resumes, and a sense of camaraderie fills the air, seasoned with a dash of humor and an undercurrent of love for the shared struggle. As the sun climbs higher in the sky, a bit like an indecisive wrestler trying to find their footing, you can't help but feel that these cozy mornings amid smoke, laughter, and perhaps a few misplaced fish are what life is all about in Iron Age Scandinavia. And with that thought, you can't make this up. You've become part of a legacy thicker than boiled porridge and definitely more entertaining. So, settle in, dear listeners. Sleep awaits you, wrapped in warmth and the occasional whiff of charred barley, promising more hilarity in the icy embrace of history to come. What a remarkable tapestry you've drifted into, woven from the misadventures of your very own Iron Age neighbors. ***. Chapter 15. Millstone misadventures grinding grain in the Iron Age. ***. Ah, the delightful dance of domesticity. Picture this, if you will. A scene set in Iron Age Scandinavia, circa 200 AD. It's a brisk morning, the kind where the air is so cold it practically gives your lungs a frosty hug. Here, we step into our main character's shoes, a budding young lad, or as he likes to call himself, master of meals-to-be. Today's grand undertaking, grinding enough grain to make a loaf of bread, a feat so monumental, it would make Sisyphus nod in sympathetic exhaustion. You witness the clamor of a humble homestead, bustling with the fervor of morning chores. Chickens are squawking louder than a town crier, while a breeze dances through the air, carrying with it a scent that's reminiscent of burnt offerings from last week's feast. It's like the olfactory version of an indecent proposal, strangely alluring yet terribly offensive. but our boy's gaze is firmly set on the quernstone. Ah, yes, the quernstone. That magnificent duo of rocks which, when looked at long enough, have you pondering the existence of better uses for your time. It's essentially two large, round stones that fit together with the mechanical precision of a broken compass spinning wildly during a snowstorm. You've got the top stone, known as the handstone, a fitting name for your delightful little chore, and the bottom stone, or the bedstone. One might even say it's the ultimate lazy, prehistoric grinding machine with a productivity rate you wouldn't believe. Our young hero is nervously eyeing the task, as if he's just been told he's been cast as the lead in a community theatre play where everybody forgot their lines. Pour the grain in and turn for hours, his father had said, which quite frankly sounded as thrilling as watching paint dry. The thought of standing there, staring at a rock while slinging grain around like a glorified fisher of flour, had all the charm of last week's leftovers. As he gently begins to pour the barley into the hole in the millstone, it's a little like adding entries to your shopping list right before a major sale. He knows rationally he's supposed to be excited about this endeavor. After all, he'll be making food, and food is delightful. But let me tell you, the relentless scraping and grinding sounds echo across the hut like a chorus of disgruntled sheep. It's a cacophony matched only by the complaints of family members taking turns at a singularly painful backache. Grinding the grain isn't just a physical labor, it's a test of endurance. Ever tried to churn butter by hand while your neighbor's goat continuously tries to dash through your legs? I mean, imagine the wobbly balance of it all, just like your gym membership that keeps promising results but only seems to give you metabolic confusion and awkward looks from the weightlifters. So there he stands, channeling his best inner lumberjack as he rotates the stone in a historic scene worthy of a modern coffee grinder ad. And what a long, drawn-out affair it is. The grain grinds and squeaks, seeming to mock him every turn of the stone. For a single loaf? Seriously, he muses, halfway considering if he should start a petition demanding shorter wheat-to-flour conversion time. Anyone. Every time he grits his teeth and thrusts his strength into the handstone, he's met with a cloud of powdery flour that follows him like a rogue cloud of bad decisions. The moment it fills the air, it's less about baking and more about creating a mini flour storm. Would this pass as a snow day? He chuckles nervously to himself, keeping half an eye out for his father's return, which would surely include another round of chores. Oh, but the historical humor doesn't stop there. This whole quernstone business is akin to you trying to make your morning smoothie in a blender that ricochets around the kitchen, leaving remnants of blueberries decorating your walls like modern art. Definitely not elegant or particularly interesting. As your young protagonist continues, he reflects on the sheer absurdity of his existence. Was there not a simpler way to make bread? Where's my microwave? He stops, but none have dared to invent such luxury for another millennium or so. Here, intricacies of kitchen convenience are nothing but a glimmering dream, buried under rocks and manual labor. Manpower, or should I say boy power, he declares to himself, now fully committed to this ordeal, as if becoming the Iron Age's answer to Gordon Ramsay, minus the top-tier kitchen tools and any sort of comfort. And there you have it, a young boy's epic saga of turning grain into flour, existing somewhere between exhausting labor and slapstick comedy. It's as though he's entered an overly dramatic cooking show, minus the flashy graphics and witty banter. This, my friends, is 200 AD Iron Age living, where every step taken in pursuit of a loaf brings a sense of accomplishment akin to finishing an entire season of your favorite show in one night. So, as the grinding continues on, and momentum builds, much like the awkward interactions at your high school reunion, where everyone's still convinced they are the big cheese, our young hero realizes that with each grain ground, he's not just producing flour, he's forging a connection with his ancestors. Generations before him have turned these stones, each scraping, echoing the laughter and struggles of life, immortalizing that often ridiculous balance between survival and a pinch of humor. And so, our boy grinds on, navigating his way toward a future where innovation might one day swap manual labor for convenience. Ah, the promise of progress, one accidental flour storm at a time. Asterisk, asterisk, Chapter 16, the arm workout of the century. The Quernstone Chronicles, asterisk, asterisk. Alright, let's get back to our boy. that brave soul, trying to make a loaf of bread by grinding grain like his very survival depended on it because, spoiler alert, it did. As you settle into this historical saga, take a moment to imagine being him, standing resolute at the foot of the family quernstone, arms flexing, and fatigue creeping in like an uninvited guest who just won't leave. The boy shifts his weight. His arms are starting to feel like they've been stuffed full of the very grain he's operating on. If you've ever carried a toddler halfway across a grocery store, you have a vague idea of the strain he's under. Each crank of the quernstone is a grueling arm workout that could quite possibly give modern gymgoers a run for their money. I mean, what do you think CrossFit is? A slight variation on the ancient art of crushing grain. He grimaces as he pushes down on the handstone, harder than anyone would typically press the snooze button on a weekday morning. The sound of stones scraping against each other crackles through the chilly air, creating a rhythm akin to a drum roll for a production featuring, let's be honest, probably a less than rewarding outcome. After all, the consensus seems to be that the quernstone isn't going to serve him an Instagram-worthy brunch made from his heroic efforts. Now, let's take a moment to appreciate the sheer absurdity of this process. Imagine if a partnership between Jack and Jill had devolved into this. Jack decides that rolling downhill with Jill is simply too easy. No, let's grind some grain to see who can get bulkier, right? Except instead of a fun trip to the well, it's a daily slog with barley. One could argue that this grueling task was clearly a precursor to modern-day health fads, like an ancient form of intermittent fasting. I work too hard for this food. Let it be a little harder to digest. Our young lad might be cursing every grain that churns through the quern, but he's about as committed to this task as someone trying to master yoga for the first time. Picture him crouched over, shoulders hunched and eyes squinted, battling against the odds like a cereal box gladiator. There's a reason the quernstone has earned its place in history, and it's not just for its revolutionary impact on bread making, it's also because no one ever forgot the workout it provided. The boy grinds on, relentlessly pouring in more barley, while his thoughts turn to other daily grievances. Can you imagine having a gym membership and using nothing but rocks for your weights? He contemplates punishing dreams of running a marathon, or having to explain your chiseled physique as just your side hustle in grain production. Should he decide to ignore crafting physique goals, he imagines his peers rolling their eyes. Oh, you just squatted down by the quernstone today. How quaint. Ah, the horror. Sounds start to echo off the walls of their modest homestead, the quernstone squeaking and crunching under the pressure, sounding like it has opinions of its own. It's almost like it's telling him, brace yourself. With every turn, we inch closer to that ever-elusive loaf of bread. If this grinding were music, it'd be the ambient soundtrack for a workout montage, only without the shiny outfits or uplifting plucky piano notes. Ever flipped a pancake that determined it wanted to cling to the pan like an obstinate relative? That's kind of what our hero is experiencing. It's a never-ending back and forth with his grain. He's not just producing flour, he's engaged in a complicated wrestling match with his breakfast. And just as he entertains fanciful daydreams of modern conveniences, such as electric mixers or maybe a flamboyant chef who'd do that work for him, he's jolted back to reality by the realization that every crumb produced is a testament to his current state of manual labor. It's like living through the worst episodes of a survival reality show, where the only reward is that familiar feeling of hunger returning once you've fought tooth and nail to create something useful. At one point, he even laughs, imagining a future where bread making is as simple as that, right, throwing some ingredients in a bowl and walking away. Alas, in 200 AD Scandinavia, the conventional wisdom goes, no, hatching it out with elbow grease is the way. Who needs instant gratification when you can have a fulfilling 45-minute struggle over a handful of barley? Finally, as the last few rumbles echo from the stone and powder collects like snow around his feet, the boy catches a glimpse of what could just be the glory of his finished flour. It's like looking at a tableau of victory after an Olympic-level competition, all achieved through sheer grit, groans, and maybe a bit of flour-kissed fingers. You can almost hear a trumpet sounding, "Behold, your weak supply of flour." Well, at least this is heavy, he muses, glancing at the fruit of his labor, rejoicing in that fleeting moment of triumph, like a medieval meme that's built for sharing. Captioned, "When you finally achieve your carb goals." As he brushes off the final remnants of the dust with a sigh of relief, he can't help but think, if only I had a medieval influencer to celebrate this with. Instead, he's left to consider how surreal it is to think he just ground grain literally from the Stone Age, which would ultimately feed a family's hunger in more ways than he might ever realize. And so, dear listener, amidst the cold, complex, and at times absurd reality of our boy's Quernstone saga, it's evident that he's already become a part of the great millstone tale of humanity across the ages, one arduous turn at a time. Chapter 17. Water. Water, everywhere, but not a drop to drink. Hey guys, welcome back. Tonight, we're about to dive into something colder than your ex's heart, fetching water in winter as a medieval peasant. Imagine waking up to temperatures so frigid that your breath turns into a little cloud of regret, and your first thought isn't coffee, but rather, ugh, those water buckets need replenishing. Now, before we jump into the icy waters of this tale, can we just take a moment to wonder about the historical figures we often overlook? How did they manage to survive the frostbite-inducing cold, avoid stepping on ancient Lego blocks that never existed, and make sure their morning porridge didn't turn into a popsicle? Were they just inherently cheerful, like those people who always smile while doing yoga in sub-zero temperatures? Where was their coffee game? Did they trade in their bougie lattes for warm soup? But first, go ahead and dim those lights, put on a fan, and get comfy, really, like you're practicing for a new Olympic sport called extreme relaxation. Now let's travel back to 200 AD Scandinavia, where fresh water isn't just a necessity. It's a complicated, problematic adventure filled with icy fingers and frozen toes. Congratulations. You've just woken up in the Iron Age, where things are about to get wet and wild, or, more accurately, frozen and silly. Picture this. You're 9 years old, and your essential job is to fetch fresh water from the stream. This task is an Olympic event in itself, except instead of glory and fame, you just get chapped lips and a bit of bladder control that might rival a porcupine on a trampoline. The frigid winter air greets you like a slap from an angry snowman, and you're left wondering how fetching water turned into the real-life version of the movie Frozen. Your woolen tunic clings to you, possibly because it's a size too small, and the cold, biting air creeps in with the enthusiasm of a nosy relative you'd rather not see. The water buckets rest ominously by the door, silently judging you for the future pain you're about to endure. You can hear the stream gurgling outside, mischief in its bubbly sound, as if it's mocking you for your impending trek. You step outside, and wow, it feels like you just tried to inhale ice cubes. Your feet crunch on the snow, each step feeling like a mini kick to the face from Mother Nature herself. Whoever invented the term cold feet clearly never dealt with a frozen stream and half-frozen water buckets, which are your current mission. On approach, the water looks almost inviting, except for the layer of frost sitting smugly on top. Imagine going for a soft-serve ice cream, the depth of expectation, and then, shockingly, it's just a frozen challenge. Do you dare to plunge your hands into it? The very germ of humanity urges you to proceed, and so you decide to channel all the bravery of the ancient Viking. Warriors who probably faced dragons or wild boars or whatever else historical figures were terrified of. But don't forget, no one told them about frozen water. As you awkwardly dip your cup into the icy liquid, your hand jerks back faster than a cat dropping a live mouse. It's like that moment in modern life, when you touch a car door handle in January. It's visceral, it's shocking, and you just really don't want to have to do it again, ever. But the duty calls. You think about how fetching water in the Iron Age is a little like trying to get a warm drink from a squirt gun. You have to engage with the cold directly and in ways that aren't pleasant. You finally get that bucket filled, but now it weighs about 50 pounds, magnifying all of your life's decisions leading to this moment. Curiously, the only things weighing you down more than the water are your existential reflections on the futility of this frozen encounter. Maybe this is why people tell tales of mythical quests. Could fetching water be the gateway to epic tales of bravery and heroism? You might even become legends, gumshoeing through the snow, shouting, "I dared to get my mitts frozen." Making your way back home, you become hyper-aware of every step. It's not just about walking anymore. This is a slippery dance of survival. You might as well be auditioning for a feature role in Dancing with the Ice Stars. Your thoughts drift back to your cozy home, the warm fire crackling inside, waiting for you like a long-lost friend who has forgotten all of your past grievances and just wants to hug you. At last, you stumble into your humble abode, water buckets in tow. There's a moment where everything feels victorious. You can almost hear the applause, maybe even a fanfare. But then reality crashes down like a frozen turd from the sky, reminding you that this water you've so diligently fetched is just the start of an endless cycle of labor. You can already hear your mother calling for you. Now, go boil that and hope you don't freeze to death while making dinner. Perhaps you'll be even more motivated next time, if only to serve as inspiration for future Vikings aware that fetching water in winter could be, quite literally, a freezing nightmare. And so, dear listener, as you nestle into the snugness of your own bed, remember that history isn't just about dates and dry stats. It's about the hilarious absurdity of daily life, as much a dance with the icy stream as with your own dreams of comfort and relief. Fetching water might seem trivial, but in the grand saga of Iron Age Scandinavia, it's a poignant reminder of resilience, one freezing, clumsy step at a time. Chapter 18. Hungry is the new cool. Hey guys, welcome back. Tonight, we're diving into something more gut-wrenching than your last attempt at cooking an elaborate dinner, the life of a 5-year-old in Iron Age Scandinavia. Yes, you heard that right. Your dinner plans can wait, because we're off to a time when hunger was a way of life less charming than a late-night infomercial for questionable kitchen gadgets. Just picture it. You wake up, and your stomach is grumbling like an empty drum, demanding food like a teenager in a drive-through lane at midnight. But here's the kicker. It's not like mom's got a stash of pizza rolls waiting in the freezer. Nope. She's probably busy contemplating whether she can stretch last night's boiled turnip into tonight's gourmet meal. Spoiler alert, she can't. Now, as you settle into those cozy sheets, dim the lights, and crank up that fan, let me ask you a few questions. Ever tried dreaming with a stomach that feels like a sad balloon? Or how about waking up so hungry that you consider chewing on your own arm for a snack? And really, why did you ever think you could live without instant ramen? What do these Scandinavians do when their 5-year-olds are half asleep and half starved? Congratulations. You've just woken up in 200 AD Scandinavia, where the Iron Age is giving you all the feels. As the sun hesitantly peeks through the cracks of your clay wattle home, turning the room from shadowy grimness to a slightly less shadowy grimness. Let's take a moment to appreciate the great existential dilemma before you, breakfast. In a world where pancakes is just a concept and bacon is an unobtainable treasure, you are met with the reality of Iron Age breakfast options, or rather, the severe lack thereof. Your 5-year-old brother, still snuggled amidst a chaos of straw, think of it as the medieval version of a toddler's bedroom, snoozes soundly, unaware that his stomach is about to have a gripping existential crisis. Kids, am I right? They can sleep through an avalanche, but the moment the breakfast vibes start fading, they're as alert as an overly caffeinated squirrel. In a world where calories are countless and food options are limited, most mornings begin with the same tragedy. A delicious, steaming bowl of wait-for-it-nothing. Well, nothing besides perhaps a few choice bits of leftover porridge from yesterday, which is now as appealing as the bottom of a compost pile. For some reason, that resilient bowl of mush always looks more like a sad science experiment than an actual meal. And as you contemplate the culinary joys that the Vikings might have had, imagine a child's reaction to all this. As you try to pry your brother from his dreams, which at this point probably involve mythical beasts and half-eaten plums, you're struck with a real, oh no moment. You know that waking a hungry child is akin to flipping a switch on a rabid bear. You peer over at him, hoping for some last-minute slumber-inspired culinary miracle, but he stirs, snorts, and goes right back to sleep, dreaming of grand feasts filled with roasted chickens, bread so warm it could almost hug you, and ale flowing like your neighbor's gossip. You wish you had that kind of optimism. You'd trade all human knowing for one delicious meal. Finally, the dreaded moment arrives. Your mum's voice cuts through the quiet, like a butcher's knife through an unripe turnip. Wake up, you two, time to get moving. Ah yes, the joyous serenade of a parent desperate to make sure everyone survives till lunchtime without casualties. But here's the kicker, she's probably trying to persuade your brother that being slightly hungry is something of a virtue, like fasting, but with far less glory and a much more annoying vibe. You scramble to your feet, your mind racing with eager daydreams of food. What are you going to eat? More porridge that looks like it might have starred in a horror film? Or perhaps that delightful turnip your mother was eyeing earlier, which you're convinced is older than the hills? Spoiler alert, it is, and it smells like it too. Engaging in the morning ritual of who can complain louder as your mom begins to prepare the day's rations, if that's what you want to call them, is like a family performance piece. You and your brother start a gentle, harmonious choir of hunger pangs and grumbles. It's practically opera. The audience, Mom, who's trying to convince both of you that turnips are basically the essence of life itself. You think about how, back in this frigid wilderness, sustenance isn't just a meal, it's a whole philosophical discussion. Is it worth it? You wonder, as you glance at the charred, slightly unsettling remnants of previous dinners stacked on the dusty shelves. Will they sustain you? Or return as a ghost of last night's dinner, haunting you at 3 a.m.? Finally, the glorious moment arrives, the blending of cold water with ancient grains in a pot heated over the smoky fire. Mother arrives with a bowl of something vaguely porridge-like, and you suddenly realize what survival truly means. Playing a game of how many bits can I tolerate? One spoonful meets lukewarm success, and somehow, that's your breakfast throne. So there you have it, the daily grind in Iron Age Scandinavia. A world filled with the earnest struggle of hunger, laughter amidst the angst, and an ever-present, unyielding desire for just one good meal, preferably one that doesn't require a scripture reference or primal screaming to digest. As you nestle deeper into your blankets, remember, every morning spent tasting porridge is another day survived in the land of our forebears. They made it, and so will you. Just try not to think about what you're missing out on, like the comforting embrace of a cheesy pizza. Remember, scope out that day's epic adventures, because dinner is always where the Vikings would say, let's make this crazy. So, sleep tight, dear listener, and may your dreams be filled with buttered bread and endless popcorn. Chapter 19, The Strangers at the Gate. Hey guys, welcome back. Tonight, we're diving into something icier than your ex's late-night texts, the chilling tension in an Iron Age Scandinavian village. Yes, strap in, as we unravel the glorious drama of folks huddling in the cold, while eyeing strangers like they just walked into a family reunion with no snacks. Imagine yourself standing in a wooden hut, where the only thing signaling warmth is the puff of your breath, and the faint hope that your last meal isn't the highlight of your entire culinary career. But wait. All of a sudden, a pack of strangers appears on the horizon. Cool, refreshing, and utterly anxiety-inducing, like that moment when your phone buzzes, and it's not just spam, but an old college buddy inviting you out. Now, as you settle into your blanket fortress, dim the lights, and set the atmosphere like you're reenacting a romantic dinner in a cave, let me ask you, ever pondered who exactly your ancestors were waiting for? Did they expect a knight in shining armor, or just an ill-timed grocery delivery? What about those times you stare out your window, convinced that the person walking down the street is plotting against you, like they really just made an unannounced detour to your cereal aisle? Congratulations! You've just woken up in 200 AD Scandinavia, where house guests take on a whole new meaning, especially when those guests look more ready for a raid than a friendly dinner. Here you are, in your drafty wooden home, walls hastily built of wattle and daub. Think of it as a bad arts and crafts project gone wrong. The creaking of wood and the howling wind form a chaotic symphony, harmonizing frighteningly well with the sense of impending doom looming at the door. Just yesterday, you were tranquility incarnate. Today, you're practically on high alert because the village just spotted some rather uninviting faces coming your way. Your neighbor, Olaf the Dubious, leans in close, his breath mingling with a hint of stale cheese and uncertainty. Do you think they're here for the free trial period on our herring, or have they come to take more than that? Meanwhile, everyone else in the village appears to be casting furtive glances, eyes darting like they're trying to interpret the weather forecast on a stone tablet. Let's talk about how vital your comfort zone is in this world of unpredictability. A peaceful day in the village typically features the delightful routine of turning over a soggy turnip or figuring out if today's gruel is any more edible than yesterday's. However, a sudden invasion at the gate brings a level of anxiety hot enough to almost melt that lukewarm porridge your mother served for breakfast. Picture it. You're clutching your wooden spoon like it's Mjolnir, ready to fend off marauders, or perhaps simply convince them not to knock over your oat storage. How loud can you yell, "Welcome," but also, "No thanks," before they think you're trying to entice them in for a festive dinner? Imagine inviting interlopers for stew just so they can taste that unsavory delight. It's like offering your neighbors last week's pizza that's been hiding in the back of the fridge. As the figures approach, cloaked in worn furs that smell suspiciously like their last encounter with a very grumpy boar, the air thickens. You think, what gives? Did anyone even ask if these folks have any dietary restrictions? It's like throwing a surprise party where nobody bothered to check if the guest of honor prefers cake or, I don't know, just wants to sit in silence while gnawing on a squirrel leg. Inside, your heart is racing faster than a fox at a chicken convention. The villagers gather in clumps, mere paws trembling with thoughts of heroic conquests, or maybe just too much cabbage stew. Each whisper could be a lamentation of impending doom, or an account of the last person who dared to engage in a friendly chat with some wandering folk. Spoiler, it didn't end well, mostly because no one listens to the infamous risky choice of offerings, cold porridge. You could cut the tension with a wooden ladle. Finally, your chief strides forward, and you can't help but notice that he's regaining his hero status despite just wearing the same mud-caked tunic since last winter. There's a stylish confidence about him, like that half-attractive, half-mad uncle at family gatherings who still believes feather boas are in fashion. He clears his throat, probably hoping it's that doomsday speech variety from the ancient scrolls, and faces the newcomers with a look of cautious authority. "Hail, travelers, we are peaceful folk." The air hangs heavy with a blend of hopeful curiosity and an underlying scent of dread, kind of like the aftermath of a family meeting that went awfully wrong. A stranger emerges, dramatically unfurling his cloak like a B-list actor in a poorly scripted play. "We come in peace," he proclaims, with a flair that suggests he somehow missed the memo that communication wasn't just for the stage. "We mean you no harm, but could we borrow some, well, food?" Your village bristles with uncertainty. Borrowing food is more of a euphemism for surrender your entire grain supply now and hope for the best. It's one thing to have a potluck, and another entirely to end a potluck with your pot being raided. The whole scene is reminiscent of a poorly organized community event, where everyone has different ideas on how to feel about what's really going down. The chief stares at the strangers, judging their sincerity, while also mentally calculating how many extra mouths to feed. "You mean, food for peace? Or peace for food? Why not both?" The stranger grins, revealing a smile that might have been charming, but feels more like an invitation for a sprightly debate over the logistics of salvage culinary partnership. And there you have it. The scene unravels with an unexpected twist as tensions rise but also give way to fuel rich in olfactory charm. History might not remember the actual dialogue, but there's a high chance that today's hushed back and forth will be the stuff of legends, or at least fodder for a wildly exaggerated tavern tale. As you bear witness to this melodrama unfold, you can't help but think, well, this is definitely a new type of potluck. Just make sure to bring your appetite and perhaps a few shields, because this night is bound to get interesting. So, tuck yourself back into those blankets, let the nighttime tales overlap with dreams, and may your thoughts drift toward feasts of friendship and alarming rescue missions. Stand firm, dear listener, for when the night is icy and the conversation becomes spicy, you can always settle back with a warm drink in your imagination. At least, sweet dreams await. Chapter 20, Projectiles and Prowess. Hey guys, tonight, we're plunging into something as thrilling as a game of dodgeball, except everyone is swinging slingshots and trying not to shatter a window or a rib. That's right, we're delving into the raw, rugged world of Iron Age Scandinavians, where boys as young as 7 were packing more heat than your average action hero at a summer blockbuster. Picture this: kids learning to launch stones with a simple leather pouch and 2 strings. It's like being gifted a superhero cape made of thrift store finds and told, "Now, go save the village." So, what's it like to be a pint-sized slingshot warrior in a bone-chilling environment? Is it as fun as carving your initials into school desks? Or is it more like worrying someone will see your secret stash of cookie wrappers in your room? Because let's face it, you're not just in a fight for your lunch. You're in a fight for your very survival while juggling the aging skincare issues that come from living in a world without moisturizers. As you settle deeper into your blankets, maybe this time with a snack, allow your imagination to wander to the mundane yet critical aspects of life back then. Questions pop to mind as you inhale the essence of those ancient times. What would it be like to cradle a slingshot while simultaneously trying not to trip over the cow? Would you be aiming for bullseye? Or just hoping you hit something that doesn't have horns? And how do you explain to your mum why the neighbors have discovered a hole in their thatched roof? Congratulations! You've just woken up in 200 AD Scandinavia. Your wooden hut may not smell great, but it represents the epitome of mid-century Scandinavian style. If by style you mean a mix between rustic charm and a questionable odor, let's talk about the art of learning to sling your stones like you mean it. It starts young, really young. You see, slingshots weren't just for making a poor pig's life more complicated. They were essential tools for every child eager to earn their street cred, even if that street was a muddy path through the village, where everyone knew everybody's business, like it was reality television. Every boy wanted to be the hero on a gloomy day, weather be damned. The cold wind would race through the village as boys gathered like tiny warriors, practicing their moves. It's kind of like watching a flash mob, but instead of choreographed dance, it's just chaos, stone slinging, shouting, and the occasional squirrel happily dodging the projectiles. You could say the slingshot culture was a bit like prepping for an impending dodgeball game, but with much higher stakes. Would you rather face off against the class bully, or a burly raider with a determined glint in his eye? Hint: opt for the bully. In the peasant's world, stones weren't just weapons, they were your ticket to legacy, a fine art form that a kid could master after a handful of practice swings and a few unfortunate encounters with the family cat. Imagine the training routine. First, you find your perfect stone, roughly the size of a small apple and as smooth as your grandma's favorite story about her pet pig. You'd grab your makeshift slingshot, which might just as easily be a glorified rubber band pulled between two sticks, and begin your practice. You'd fling that stone with the kind of intensity that could launch a lightweight villain right out of a comic book. But there's a catch. The neighborhood watch, aka your overprotective mother, who's ready to catch you with more than just a stern look if you miss. "What do you think you're doing, young man?" she'd say, probably on the verge of sending you on another chore because, in her eyes, slingshot mastery hasn't exactly earned you freedom from potato peeling duties. There's also the small issue of safety. You see, children like you learned quickly that there was a fine line between heroism and losing an eye. Firing an accurately aimed stone was not only a rite of passage but also a test of survival. The villagers could bust out the band-aids when accidents occurred, but trust me, nothing could heal the wounded pride of a slingshot apprentice. Once you've mastered the art of aiming for live targets, or at least something that isn't alive, your reputation begins to soar. Like a ravenous Viking ship sailing the stormy seas. You become known not just as Little Ern, but Ern the Mighty, feared by raiders, or so you imagine in a fit of childhood bravado. Sure, the reality is more likely you'd just be late for dinner after a bit of harmless stone tossing, but in the world of imagination, there are no limits. The skills you learn through this adventurous sport tie into the fabric of your village life. Each stone you release could be a signal of impending trouble, perhaps a way to warn of raiders approaching, or an everyday childhood squabble over lost toys. Imagine being that hero who launched stones gracefully and swiftly enough to distract a raider long enough for everyone to escape like Captain America, but with more dirt under your fingernails. As delightful as this imagery is, let's not forget the real challenge, hitting your mark and only causing minimal chaos. When you're little and practicing, every stone counts. You might miss the mark and accidentally launch a missile across the village square, which promptly shatters the last loaf of bread that everyone was obviously ignoring 5 minutes ago. But no worries, no one holds a grudge. Little Ern had the right intentions. They'd say, as you stand there, stone in one hand, while a fresh loaf of bread crumbles into a sad, edible mess. And so it goes, the life of an Iron Age child was one filled with stone-flinging, awkward maneuvers, and dreams of ancient glory, riddled with stitches and flops but bathed in tales of valor. Hopefully, I learned a thing or two about mastering a slingshot, complete with how not to break the property of others, or at the very least, Find creative ways to dodge responsibilities while living out your grand adventures. So, dear listener, let the soothing echoes of laughter guide you into slumber, where visions of Viking children's antics abound, and perhaps dream of perfecting the ultimate slingshot. Remember, tomorrow is another day for imaginary battles, and with every stone, you cling to a little bit of history and a whole lot of humor driving you toward adventurous dreams. Sweet dreams await. Chapter 21. Longhouses, Livestock and Lazy Lifestyles. Hey guys, tonight, we're diving into a leisure activity rougher than a family game night during a power outage. Surviving the Iron Age in Scandinavia. Picture this, it's 200 AD, and there you are, cozying up in a longhouse amid northern winds that howl like your uncle at the karaoke bar. You're surrounded by a community of 40 spirited souls, all crammed into a structure that's basically one giant social experiment, and I'm not talking about the kind with snacks. Now, as you settle into your blankets, maybe sip on some herbal tea, or nibble carelessly on leftover medieval turnips, we see you. Let's ponder this. What in the world did these Iron Age Scandinavians do for fun? Did they dabble in interpretive dance while waiting for the frost to melt? Did they have wheeled carts just to roll their eyes at each other during dull moments? And most importantly, how on earth did they survive those bone-chilling winters without wrapping themselves in goose down? Well, congratulations. You've just woken up in a longhouse in 200 AD Scandinavia. Imagine a cozy mud-walled shelter that's part home, part livestock barn, and all kinds of funky smells. As you stretch, the earthy scent of fresh dung wafts through the air, reminding you that in this land of frost and folklore, humanity and livestock are both the pride and profound stink of daily life. Your cozy abode is structured using wattle and daub. Sounds fancy, right? But it's more like, let's stick some sticks together, slap some mud on it, and hope the cows don't charge through. Truly, nothing says architectural achievement quite like mud-paced walls and thatched roofs, threatening to shed themselves with every gust of wind. If you listen closely, you might even hear the gentle rhythmic dripping of melted snow, or is that just the ceiling, deciding it's had enough? The longhouse is flanked by fields stretching to the horizon, kissed by the bleak but beautiful Scandinavian sun, or more accurately, the sun's half-hearted attempt at shining. This is your agricultural paradise, where crops and livestock mingle like teenage friends at a school dance, awkwardly, and with a hint of competition. The fields produce barley and rye, the pasture is alive with sheep, and if you're lucky, you might have a cow with a remarkable talent for looking grumpy. But who knows, maybe that's just your neighbor's cow trying to steal the spotlight. Now, let's talk winter. The moment the frost creeps in, your longhouse becomes a bustling refuge against the external chill, as cozy as a can of sardines. Picture this. Families squeezed tightly together, children wielding wooden spoons as if they were Viking swords, and above all, a lovely aroma reminiscent of fear, smoke, and possibly a few rogue smoke-baked potatoes. Still, you've got heat from a communal fire, and goodness gracious, does it feel good after a brisk walk if you're not too busy dodging the goats that parade around your feet with an air of entitlement. Strangely, you soon learn a valuable lesson. Your livestock may not be the best roommates. That soft, fuzzy sheep in the corner will happily eat your leftover turnips, while the cow will stare with the intensity of an ancient oracle, judging your life choices like it just read your diary. Oh, little Ern, it seems to say, shouldn't you be out hunting instead of raiding my salad bar? But life isn't all cow watching and fire gathering. There are opportunities for eccentricities, like the entertaining performances of the local gossip squad comprised of the neighborhood children, of course. Huddled together, they spin tales taller than their fathers about raiders and lightning gods, all while hiding remnants of outdated pastries and dried fish behind their backs. You know the drama. Laura claimed she saw a ghost in the woods, but I heard she was just trying to avoid chores. The joys of communal living can veer into absurdity pretty quickly. Imagine trying to have a private chat when your neighbor, with questionable timing, decides to make a raucous entrance, bidding fair to steal the spotlight. Didn't you have a cow to milk, Olav? You might grumble, only to receive a chuckle and an irritable goat tethered awkwardly by his side. And then there's food. Forget the 5-course meals. Your supper might involve boiled grains, a hodgepodge of foraged greens, and just enough mutton to keep your stomach from staging a full-on mutiny. As you chew your way through a bowl, you hear the haunting call of the raven overhead. They say it's an omen, but truth be told, it's just really interested in your supper. You cannot deny that life in a longhouse is one big mix of camaraderie, food sharing, and the occasional fight over whose turn it is to clean the livestock area. Speaking of livestock areas, oh yes, let's not gloss over that joy. This delightful section of your home doubles as the recycling center for all things at floor level. You've read that right. Whatever detritus makes its way into your abode is simply another flavor of fertilizer. Every few weeks, the longhouse holds what you fondly call the great cleanup, a time to scrape, shovel, and quite frankly battle the stench. As you layer yourself in your wool tunics, surrounded by your fantastic longhouse family, you realize in a strange way that you're participating in an age-old ritual. Underneath the grumpiness of livestock and the thrill of icy breath, human connection thrives. Laughter echoes off mud walls, winter's breath makes you layer up, and maybe, just maybe, you wouldn't trade your quirky little slice of life for any other era. So, dear listener, let yourself drift into slumber amidst the chaos of ancient life, where community bickering and cow-related dramas set the stage for warmth. Tomorrow awaits with stories of frostbite survival, and attempts at communal breakfast that are bound to be just as funny. Sweet dreams await, and perhaps visions of goat-powered adventures will dance around your head. Chapter 22. Crusty bread, coarse companions, and culinary chaos. Hey guys! Tonight, we're investigating a culinary adventure rougher than the time you tried to impress your date with a homemade meal but ended up ordering pizza instead. We're diving straight into the frosty world of Iron Age Scandinavia, around the year 200 AD, where the only thing crunchier than your uncomfortable seating is your daily bread. And trust me, there's a good chance the bread is older than your entire extended family combined. Now, as you cozy up under those flannel sheets, maybe sipping some herbal tea, even if you just poured it from a box with a cartoon on it, let's ponder, what was it like to chew through a rustic loaf that had taken the welly of 1,000 mashes and a marathon of grinding? Did they pray to the gods of gluten before kneading the dough? Did the sheep sideline into gourmet chefs, hovering around, giving unsolicited cooking tips? Most importantly, if you took a bite and it didn't break your jaw, had you actually achieved bread of merit? Imagine this. You've just plopped awake and feel the warmth of the common hearth on your cheek. Congratulations, you've just joined a family in some rickety longhouse, where you'll soon become one with the smell of damp wool and burnt mutton. Your heart races as you see the prized communal bread loaf, a circular beast of labor that has absorbed more life stories than your average family photo album. The bread isn't just any loaf. It's the result of hours, no, days of grinding grains between stones, kneading in rhythm like a medieval workout video gone rogue. Now, picture the scene. The flickering fire casts a warm golden glow, illuminating the communal table where everyone gathers like moths drawn to a flickering flame or a cake on a counter. But instead of cake, it seems the only available treat is that hard-earned bread, crustier than your relationship with your neighbor who's convinced you don't rake your leaves enough. They say, a loaf is worth 1,000 words, and today, it seems, you've got a novel to chew through. As you tear off a chunk of bread, it's almost a fitness routine in itself. Trying to break this bad boy without pulling a muscle, you're met with resistance. It's like a wrestling match with a stubborn piece of dough. But oh, the sheer triumph when you finally manage to produce a piece. That feeling is unparalleled. You might as well be crowned bread champion of 200 AD Scandinavia, with a trophy that's just a pie tin filled with stale fish. Of course, with each bite, you can taste the grit. Not just the grain, but literally no one remembers when the last time was that anyone swept the remnants off the table. It's real mountain bread, meant for mountain folks. You can practically imagine the contented cooing of the half-happy sheep that donated their wool for your cozy block of cheese that now seems slightly irrelevant in comparison to your bread triumph. But let's not forget the horror of the side dishes. Who thought boiled greens should ever be a thing? You stare at them with the enthusiasm of a child faced with a plate of Brussels sprouts, the hatred bubbling beneath like a simmering pot of turnip stew. All around the table, you notice people devouring their portions, chewing as if it's the last meal before winter, a rather sobering idea when you think about it. The little ones, bless their ravenous insatiability, swallow everything because they're convinced it's a race. And oh, what's that sound? The calling of the neighbors, imaginary or real, it hardly matters. It's the same clamor of laughter, gossip, and the occasional scuffle you'd hear at a family barbecue gone haywire. And by barbecue, of course, I mean one overcooked hare and too many critters trying to steal the bread off your plate. You could say it's all part of the evening's ambience, but let's be honest, more likely it's just another day at the hearth of hilarity. Look around you. You're part of something grander, a tapestry woven from sheep's wool, laughter, and yes, a fair amount of hand-rolled, not so fresh bread. You take another bite and ponder just how this bread could endure even a Viking raid. Maybe that's the secret. Its endurance comes from an unyielding nature, honed by the very hands that knead it day in and day out. Equal parts dread and determination. But be careful. If you think your recent DIY project was a disaster, just wait until you hear the latest gossip about Bjorn's attempts at baking. It seems even the sheep were preparing for a mutiny. Last week, his loaf could have been used as a doorstop. You giggle as a child interrupts, asking if that's what bread is really meant for. So, as the laughter fades and your make-believe family draws closer, you realize surviving Scandinavian winters isn't just about warmth or battles against the cold. It's about the shared stories, rough bread, and the occasional uninvited goat interruption. Go ahead, dear listener, let your eyelids grow heavy, and remember, tonight you're not just dreaming of fancy loaves and gourmet dinners, you're sticking it out with your Iron Age family, trading inequality for crusty camaraderie. And if you wake up dreaming of turning this hard bread into a fine medley of toasted dreams, well, you'd be just like an Iron Age Scandinavian after all. Sweet dreams await, where the mystery of tomorrow's meals is just a chance to make history, or at least another loaf. Chapter 23. Foraging Follies and Leafy Legends. Hey guys. Tonight, we embark on a journey even cooler than your uncle's receding hairline. A trip to the enchanting, mildly frosty world of Iron Age Scandinavia in the year 200 AD. Now, you might be wondering, what was life like for Scandinavian peasants back then? It was full of surprises, some delightful, and others that could make a goat cry. But first, let's take a moment for some self-reflection. If you were suddenly plopped down among these bone-chilling Scandinavians, would you rather forage for food with a rickety basket, or face the inevitable disappointment of intermittent Wi-Fi? How would you feel about wearing clothes made from animal skins that smelled like fish by midsummer? And have you ever needed to hoard leaves like they were the last toilet paper roll during a global panic? Spoiler alert. True survival means every leaf counts. Now, close your eyes, and imagine that you've just woken up in a longhouse, surrounded not by the soothing hum of your refrigerator, but rather by the constant chatter of a delightfully chaotic family. Congratulations! You've just joined a quirky band of Iron Age Scandinavians who are so serious about preparing for winter, they treat foraging like an Olympic sport. Ah, the task at hand. The father, a man whose beard looks like it could house a family of birds, has assembled everyone for a vital mission, a quest to the forest for leaves. Yes, leaves, folks. Try not to picture any exciting adventures involving knights or dragons. Instead, you'll be competing with every other family for the best forage, a time-honored tradition that could turn even the most conservative of grandmothers into a competitive force in the Great Scandinavian Leaf Championship. As you gather your ragtag band of siblings and cousins, you're greeted by the delightful aroma of damp earth, mingling with a hint of pine, a scent that, as you quickly discover, serves as a natural air freshener for some of the lingering smells from last night's boiled turnip soup. It's like if nature and composting decided to throw a party, but you forgot to send out invitations. But let's get down to the nitty-gritty. The forest isn't just a place to stroll casually. You and your motley crew are armed with makeshift baskets fashioned from twigs and the creativity of a toddler with a glue stick. As you enter the depths of the woods, a slight chill wraps around you like an over-aggressive hug. Trees rise like imposing giants, and even the squirrels seem to give you the side-eye, perhaps judging your lack of foraging prowess. Remember, your father bellows with the enthusiasm of a Viking heading into battle. The leaves are for the animals. Ah yes, the animals need their winter forage, because nothing screams "I love my pets" like hoarding every unguarded leaf in sight, right? You can't help but wonder, how many leaves does a sheep truly need for winter survival? And how do you convince them that gourmet options aren't on the menu? As you begin plucking leaves, you encounter something profound. The realization that leaf selection is an art form. There are the delicate, crispy ones that seem to whisper sweet nothings. Choose me, I'm delectable. While the leathery ones scowl back at you as if to say, I'm basically edible cardboard, good luck with that. The pressure is on. You're not just gathering to survive. You're curating a fine selection that would make even the fussiest of sheep raise an eyebrow. You spot your younger sibling trying to impress everyone with their newfound foraging skills, only to discover that instead of finding delicious leafy greens, they've plucked a handful of wildflowers. Look, look, they exclaim, waving the bouquet like it's the Stanley Cup. You exchange glances filled with a mix of confusion and admiration. Is this a moment of genius or sheer madness? Perhaps both. At least the sheep won't notice much. While foraging continues, the inevitable mayhem ensues. You accidentally step on a branch, which summarily cracks beneath your weight, sounding like an ancient war horn. Suddenly, a flock of birds takes off, fluttering away in a dramatic cloud of feathers. Mother Nature's soundtrack of chaos unfolds. Who knew leaf gathering could feel like a scene from an action movie? As the day wears on, your hands are green with sap, and your mind is racing with thoughts of dinner. If only you could convince your father that a leaf salad isn't an actual meal. You start to mentally calculate how many leaves would equal one bowl of hearty mutton stew. Spoiler alert. It's a difficult equation, one best not contemplated while standing in the middle of a forest, looking like you belong in a Netflix documentary about confused cavemen. Now, after what feels like hours but could really just be minutes, your father declares victory, holding up the piles of leaves like a proud warrior brandishing a trophy. You all return home, laden with forage, feeling like the world's oddest grocery shoppers. Do any of these leaves even matter? You'll have to wait and see. As the fire crackles back at the longhouse, a sense of accomplishment and perhaps a smidge of confusion settles in. You did it! You're officially part of the Iron Age forager family, a title that holds about as much significance as winning a local potato sack race. Congratulations indeed. So now, dear listener, as your eyelids grow heavy with the weight of leafy dreams, remember the laughter, the family, and the sheer absurdity of it all. You may not have come out with a gourmet dinner, but you've certainly mastered the historical art of leaf gathering deep within the netherworld of Iron Age dynamics. Sweet dreams await, perhaps featuring quests for even more bizarre supplies in your next adventure. But for now, rest your weary head. Chapter 24. Branches, Axes, and Potential Disasters. Hey guys, buckle up, because tonight we're diving deeper into Iron Age Scandinavia, where survival skills were paramount, and every tool had a purpose, or at least, that's what they told you as you tripped over a stone the size of a baby walrus. Now, picture this. You wake up, much like you do on a Tuesday morning in 2023. But instead of scrolling through memes, you're surrounded by stone walls and the unmistakable scent of damp earth. It's a delightful combo of pine, the lingering aroma of last night's fish stew, and the slight hint of sheep. Ah, the sweet smell of history. So, what do you think it was like to wield an axe made from stone? Like your great-great-great-grandpa was a lumberjack in training and didn't know it? Did they experience the same existential dread when faced with chores? Do I have to chop down that tree? Or can we just eat pickled herring instead? As you stretch your bones from another night in your straw-filled sleep sack, yes, sleep sack, the medieval version of what your overpriced hotel calls luxury bedding, your father hands you an older axe. Not the fancy iron one that's reserved for serious tree felling and, possible Viking invasions, but a trusty little number with a stone blade and a wooden handle. Because nothing screams, let's get productive, like a tool that's been around since your ancestors discovered fire and debated what to cook with it. Now, you might think an axe is just an axe, but no. In the world of Iron Age Scandinavians, this specific axe opens up new levels of storytelling. Think of it as the number, not a serious tool, of the chopping community. This isn't for the heavy lifting against enemy armadas. It's for delicately snipping branches, like a hairstylist who just lost their shears. Ooh, I like this branch, but I think we can trim a little off the top. Voila, it's art. As you step outside, the chill hits you like an overly enthusiastic slap from a friendly ghost. The forest is alive with the sound of nature, chirping birds, rustling leaves, and the occasional creak of a tree that's clearly going through some midlife crisis. To be chopped or not to be chopped, that is the question. You imagine them pondering in dramatic fashion. The task at hand is to gather fodder for the animals, a noble pursuit in the eyes of everyone who isn't a sheep and finds this task utterly mundane. Now, you're out here in the woods, clumsily orchestrating your chopping with all the finesse of a toddler armed with a pair of safety scissors. And for my next trick, I will turn this delightful branch into a really questionable winter snack for our precious livestock. Let's take a moment to consider how this might parallel your modern-day life. Ever tried to impress someone with your gourmet cooking skills, only to realize that your microwave has more versatility? Chopping branches under the awkward scrutiny of a dozen squirrels is somewhat like preparing a 5-course meal for picky eaters, isn't it? You confidently wield your axe, hoping the trees don't somehow judge your technique as severely as your in-laws. Oh dear, that branch was already dead. Perhaps you should work on your aim, they seem to say. With that first swing, your axe connects with a branch, the impact reverberating through your arm as if it's giving you a gentle reminder of your poor life choices. A little friendly reminder, never hurt anyone, you mutter to the trees, which are, judging by those ages, probably thousands of years older than you, and most certainly in better shape. Chopping away, you find yourself amidst a botanical buffet, the allure of multiple foraging options ahead. Crunchy leaves, tantalizing twigs, and every potential sheep snack that has yet to be named. One branch, you're sure, could be used for a makeshift catapult, if your imagination stretches truly far. Do you think the animals appreciate artistic efforts? You ponder aloud, glancing at a nearby sheep who gives you a valiant look, seemingly weighing its chances based on your current level of competence. One leaf or a whole salad. Decisions. Decisions. Everything is going surprisingly well until you hear a timed snap. Asterisk, not from your axe, but from the branch you had just confidently decided was going to change the grazing game forever. Oh, it's just like morning coffee, you think. You never know when it's going to spill. But now, catastrophe. The branch falls, somehow creating a domino effect with nearby shrubbery. You've inadvertently startled the wildlife, and suddenly the forest is in chaos as squirrels dash away in a fluff of rustling leaves, and birds squawk at their unexpected interruption, with a sigh that carries the weight of 1,000 Nordic warriors. You realize perhaps that this little adventure of gathering branches was more like being the headliner at an unintended comedy night. Coming to a tree near you, the foraging fiasco, starring a not-so-great axe wielder. Eventually, you gather enough branches, heavily reminding yourself that winter isn't just about survival. It's also a time to reflect on how to optimally chop down a tree one whimsical branch at a time. Back at home, with your precious cargo of foraged fodder, there's pride mixed with a healthy dose of confusion, a perfect blend for an Iron Age peasant. So rest easy tonight, dear listener. In your dreams, may you forage without fear and wield axes like true champions. Whatever mess you make can surely be maneuvered around with a good sense of humor, and possibly a creative plan to blame the next sibling for the chaos. Sleep tight, just don't forget to duck. Chapter 25, The Community Conundrum, Banding Together in the Cold. Hey guys, welcome back. Tonight we're braving something frostier than last week's leftovers. The bone-chilling camaraderie of Iron Age Scandinavians, where surviving the winter doesn't just require warm clothes, but a community willing to work, breathe, and probably complain together. Imagine being one of the 40 frostbitten souls in a village, so secluded that even the reindeer packed up and moved to Florida for the winter. Out here, relying on the help of others is not just a sentimental notion. It's a survival strategy as essential as knowing how to dodge an icicle on a long walk from the hearth. Seriously, if you ever wanted a lesson in cooperative living, welcome to your frosty paradise. Now, take a moment and picture this. Have you ever tried to assemble IKEA furniture with your significant other, after 2 hours of fighting over whether to attach piece A to piece B, or to just throw the entire thing out the window? Imagine that, but instead of a stylish bookshelf, you're struggling to survive amid howling winds and frigid temperatures. holding a sizable axe in one hand and a comically small fish in the other, while trying to barter for potatoes that are probably older than your grandma. But congratulations, you've just woken up in 200 AD, the year when your ancestors were sharing blood, sweat, and maybe a little frostbite in the name of community. You step out into a world where the only Wi-Fi connecting you to reality is a mutual agreement not to freeze to death. This isn't your postmodern life, this is survival in Scandinavia, where the motto is, together we may survive, apart we will definitely freeze. The first thing that hits you is the smell, an aromatic blend of damp earth, occasional wood smoke, and something that has the unmistakable scent of yesterday's herring salad lingering far too long. The villagers are bustling about, each doing their part in a grand performance of chaotic harmony. It's as if a theatre troupe decided to platter up the art of survival with a side of slapstick humor. You see Ulf, the village blacksmith, drenched in sweat while hammering out iron. It's not your average day at the forge. Think of it as a Nordic sauna with more muscle and less hygiene. Ever wonder how the villagers stayed warm? It's simple. They collectively agreed that huddling together around a forge while Ulf pretends he's not dying inside was a good idea. It's at this moment when you realize community in Iron Age Scandinavia means a lot of things: free meals, shared duties, and a constant, collaborative effort to ensure everyone is breathing and somewhat warm. Then, there's Freya, who's taken on the noble task of concocting a massive pot of stew, the highly sought-after "what are we eating today?" Surprise. The ingredients were questionable leftover vegetables that looked like they had gone 2 rounds with a badger, and some meat probably sourced from something that didn't survive the last cold snap, but it's enough to keep everyone's spirits high. Meanwhile, Freya is expounding on the virtues of teamwork in the kitchen, and simultaneously flinging bits of questionable meat to her ever-hungry flock of goats that have assumed the role of her sous-chefs. Now, while everyone fends off the cold, there's also the specter of community bonding, a joyful affair of shared stories and awkward silence when someone inevitably farts under the wool blankets. Really, it's an essential part of the Iron Age Scandinavian bonding experience. You can picture them all huddled together, each offering half-hearted chuckles at tales of past winter disasters, and hoping that today, no one trips over the goat and ends up face first in the stew. It adds flavor. You can practically hear Freya declaring, "It's not gourmet, but it's survival." Don't forget about Harry, the village's unofficial gossip and chief mischief maker. His job is to keep spirits high, which usually involves outlandish tales about how the neighboring village convinced a mountain troll to do their gardening for a basket of turnips. Just imagine the troll's face when he realizes what he agreed to. He roars, throwing his head back in laughter, infectious enough that even a few squirrels weakened by the winter can't help but chuckle from their trees. Camaraderie extends beyond shared laughter, though. As a member of this quaint little community, you are expected to carry your weight, literally. Whether that means chopping enough firewood to keep the bitter cold at bay, gathering fodder for the livestock, which inevitably turns into a competitive branch chopping event, reminiscent of a misguided lumberjack competition, or forming a human chain to toss firewood across the length of the village. Nothing binds a community quite like frostbite and a healthy dose of teamwork. But let's not kid ourselves, there's more at stake than just warmth and meals. Community members often engage in friendly arguments about the best way to plant root vegetables. One villager might insist that potatoes grow better if you sing to them, while another may suggest building a shrine. A little extra love can't hurt, right? You chirp as you roll your eyes. Amidst these trials and tribulations of community life, those 40 souls survive because they need each other. Because when the winter winds blow, and even the bravest reindeer decide that sticking their heads in the ground is a solid life choice, you best believe there are more than a few backstories, quirky anecdotes, and possibly unfinished arguments lingering in the frosty air that connects them all. Laughter, snowball fights, and communal dinners may well be the only thing standing between you and turning into a frostbitten statue. So, as you lay upon your straw-stuffed mattress, God forbid, you actually emerge as the next Iron Age version of a human popsicle. Remember this: survival may mean working together to brave the elements, but it also means embracing the chaos and humor of it all. Sleep well, dear listener. May your dreams be filled with tall tales of trolls, hearty stews, and questionable creative practices that at least keep you collectively warm enough to make it until morning. And, who knows, perhaps in the world you've created between those 40 adventurous souls, you have finally begun to understand the art of surviving. It's all about the company you choose to keep. And now, as the smoke thins, as the longhouse settles into its quiet nighttime heartbeat, and as the last crackles of the hearth melt into the dark, let your breath soften, and let the weight of the Iron Age drift gently into the distance. Tonight, we stepped into a world where mornings didn't begin with sunlight, but with soot stinging your eyes and frost pressing at the door. A world where survival wasn't heroic or glamorous, it was routine. Daily. Unavoidable. We woke beside families who rose coughing before they rose talking. Children who learned to laugh through the haze, and elders who could stir a fire from nothing but embers and stubbornness. We felt the cold gnawing at the walls, the wet animal skins hung to dry, the rough wool scratching against skin, and the thick smoky air that clung to hair, clothes, and memory. We saw people who lived through the kind of winters that would make most of us call in sick for the season. People who endured long nights, weak light, aching cold, and homes built from timber, earth, and determination. And somehow, through the smoke, the dark, and the bone-deep chill, they found jokes to mutter, stories to share, and reasons to keep going. There is something quietly beautiful in that. The reminder that humans have always found ways to survive, to adapt, to warm each other, even when the world outside was trying its hardest to freeze them solid. So as you lie in your warm bed now, wrapped in blankets instead of animal hides, breathing clean air instead of a smoky stew, take a moment to be grateful for the comforts around you. For heat, for quiet, for softness, for safety. Let the longhouse fade. Let the cold stay outside your imagination. Let your body loosen and rest. You're safe. You've done enough. Close your eyes and drift gently into sleep.